What's happening? Benton here. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, in this heaven or hell realm, presently manifesting as a hell realm. How about you? I'm in Pennsylvania, driving my preferred hours. Maybe these dispatchers have figured things out, at least temporarily. Say, hey, we want production out of this driver. We better work with him a little bit. So I think this is like 3 shifts in a row. Maybe more than that. Maybe like 5 in a row. Dick Gregory, the late black comedian, not black comedy, dark-skinned fella. He used to talk about going to bed early. Something about all of the sleep after midnight doesn't count because of the something about the Van Allen radiation belt. But then, he was also a comedian, so who knows? I do think about that because I feel pretty good overall, and something about just discovering when does the body want to rest. Versus when is the peak energy levels, the peak focus. All of these things. And first thing last night, actually, now, when I woke up about 10 p.m. and I had some anxiety, a little bit of anxiety, nothing too crazy, but based upon I was parked at this tiny little truck stop in Pennsylvania near the shipper. And because it's in the middle of freaking nowhere, I did not have enough time on my clock to get to a proper truck stop. And Pennsylvania, like many states, no idling for big rigs. And they even had the no idling signs, which looked official. I'm wondering, does the government come out there and put up the no idling signs? So I'm already, but then people would say, well, what's the weather? What's the temperature? It's like, yeah, it's like 60 degrees overnight. Would be perfect temperature to shut the truck off and maybe crack a window. But then in my sleep, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps the person next to me parks next to me and something's wrong with his APU. And next thing you know, the entire cab of my truck fills up with poisonous fumes. That's happened before, by the way. Also, unfamiliar noises, potentially waking me up versus the droning sound of the engine, right? But then I'm thinking about it, are people being disturbed? And some of these thoughts were happening before I went to sleep, yesterday. But then also knowing that the truck is going to do a regen, for the DEF system, the emissions and all of this, the particulates. And, it's for some reason, this truck is very loud when it idles, and it's even louder when it does one of those regens. Like, it's even louder than other trucks for some reason at idle, not quite sure. But then it cranks the RPMs up to like 1,500, which is a lot for a truck to do the regen. But that happened fairly early yesterday, so that was good. I don't like to disturb folks, but then I even looked up which way did this county vote in the presidential election? Because I'm thinking, well, if it's a Trump county, then probably that they won't be too bothered by a loud truck idling, But if it's a Kamala country, they might be like, "Hey, you're destroying the environment, sir." Well, I'm taking corporate goods from one warehouse to another, but all right, if you say so. Pretty sure the environment was already ruined when I got here in '75, but okay. Uh, it was a paradise, and then I passed through my mom, and now everything's gone to shit. Must be my fault, right? Do not internalize those ideas. The realm would certainly have one internalize such ideas as if I'm responsible for the plight of dystopia, right? Oh, let's loop into problem solving. Millennial Steam. I watched his most recent video. That's his side hustle. Is his YouTube channel, and he was talking about, simply based on him noticing, observing, and reporting the issues and problems that people face. And then it's like, well, how come you don't come up with any solutions? Again, that's straight out of Rules for Radicals, by the way. That's the lefty playbook, lest we forget. In fact, Obama was pulling that as president at those town halls. Anytime somebody brought up an issue facing the country, what's your solution? I don't do a good Obama, but that was always the. And since I had read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, I said, yeah, that's right out of straight out of Rules for Radicals, the lefty playbook. And that's what happens to MAGA or so-called conservatives who don't study what they believe to be their enemy. Because why would they? The enemy's ridiculous. Anything ridiculous can never seize power or come to pass. From their perspective. But what I've noticed is a lot of the traditional family values conservatives have adopted, some of those tactics, merely from observing the enemy. And it's like, hey, don't you realize, folks, or not you, but don't they realize that they are in fact in part becoming the enemy, right? Absorbing some of the characteristics of the enemy in this context, the political enemy, let's be clear. But then, as individuals in heaven or hell realm, manifesting as a hell realm, don't all of those individuals have more in common than, are there not more similarities than dissimilarities? I would think so. I would think so. So this it's going to take about 9 hours. And all I did yesterday, I drove my full shift and then dropped, the delivery was in Florence, New Jersey. Then it was 2.5 hours north into Pennsylvania. And Florence, New Jersey is damn near in Philadelphia. I guess northeast of Philadelphia. And, to an Arkansas boy, it's pretty much all the same stuff. But so then, north of Philadelphia, the route goes west and then turns north. A lot of rural areas, PA, and got to the major corporation warehouse facility. Dropped the load. Actually, dropped the empty trailer after being live unloaded very quickly in New Jersey. One thing I appreciate about the Northeastern culture, they're on it, man. They're right on fucking top of it. A truck rolls in to be unloaded, they fucking hop to, they unload that motherfucker, and they're on to the next episode. Culturally, very different from many other parts of the country. I've always appreciated that. Generally, if I'm delivering in the Northeast, as long as I'm, I have an appointment and they are adhering to appointments, it's almost a guarantee. Just here's your doc. We're going to unload you right away. But then from a Southern perspective, a Southerner might just get offended because they're, not a lot of small talk. very direct and blunt, which I appreciate, by the way. I'm still going to be, my aw shucks, goofy self, right? Uh, Overly nice in a way, not nice, overly friendly, perhaps. Um, but yeah, I've always appreciated the we're actually here to do our jobs, and sort of the big city, like we're in a hurry. Let's get this done. Move it, move it, move it. Yeah, I like that. I like a little bit of speed and intensity, and taking one's job seriously, right? Uh, yeah, it makes things better uh, in many ways, in my experience. But then thinking about somewhere in Louisiana, I think it was, could have been, I don't remember exactly where, but it was all black folks at the facility. And it basically took an entire one of their shifts to get unloaded. So much so, this was still back in the drinking days. And I had, you're not supposed to do this, but I really don't need to tell on myself when I might be, observed. For all I know, the AI algorithm is, my company is having the AI scrutinize whatever I might say aloud in the truck. But either way, you know, I uh, I could tell it was going to be so fucking long to get unloaded. I ended up passing out, and then, of course, completely out of hours, and eventually, just they more or less ordered me from the dock. Like, hey, you got to get the fuck out of the dock here. And I do remember at a certain point getting so, and this was back during the fake pandemic, that I was just so, incensed and out of my mind in a way. I was just like on the air horn, basically like, hey, I'm basically, I was kidnapped, and this is what I mean when some of these facilities will just kidnap the drivers. Like, yeah, I've been here 8 hours, with no end in sight. At what point, at what point, is this going to be over? Well, and eventually I was able to, after the security guard had to come make me leave the dock, because I had resigned myself to just like, hey, who knows how long this is going to take. So I'm just here living my life in this truck. Maybe this is just where I live now, backed up to this dock. And yeah, they came, made me, and then so the next morning I had to go beg for my bills of lading, wait for the shipper office to open. I'm sure they'd gotten word, some crazy trucker repeatedly on the air horn at the dock. But they know they're wrong. Like, they know they're intentionally working as slow as possible, right? For whatever reason. Maybe they have grievances against the company. I don't know. I can't call it. Shout out to the chat. But yeah, so made it to the 2.5 hours up to the major corporation facility in the middle of nowhere, and dropped the dropped the empty trailer, hooked up to the loaded trailer, and still had like an hour on my clock, but there's just simply no conventional large truck stops within an hour and a half. So I parked like 6 miles from the facility, that little bitty truck stop. I was asleep by like 4:30, I think, probably. Good stuff. Wide awake by 10. Let's go. And so, again, the company is figuring out, I think, how I work versus this last company last year, a year ago now, over a year ago, that ART Transportation. It was, trying to force me into, square peg into a round hole. Just never going to stop trying to hammer me in, It's never going to happen. They were just never going to stop. So it's nice. And then, I believe you me, I put this down to culturally, all of the dispatchers are from India. Maybe they're in India. I don't fucking know. But and it reminds me of just the high levels of oppositional defiance that are pretty much built into Americans. That I'm not experiencing. It's not, but I'm not saying, oh, Indians good, Americans bad. What I'm saying is that, yeah, they have their own cultural things, the Indians that are, not desirable. But I do enjoy the part where they're like, oh, he's most productive during these hours. How about we just work with that? Oh, he doesn't care about trying to go home every other weekend. How about we just roll with that? So I've already gotten the message, oh, he goes to sleep at 4 p.m., anywhere between 4 and 6 p.m. How about we send him whatever messages we need to send him today, because this fucker's going to be up at 2 a.m., want to know what the deal is, and nobody's around to answer it, right? So actual, just, no reason to be defiant around that, right? Just, hey, let's get our job done. Let's make money for the company. And again, these are not concepts I necessarily agree with. In fact, a lot of this I rail against, but it's like, yeah, if we're going to go to all this trouble to show up somewhere, whether remotely or, to a physical office, and be Indian dispatchers, why not do that somewhat properly? And by the way, I will pitch a fit, when I need to, and already have at least once. But I also just straight up tell them, I'm, whatever I can do to help the team, let's do it. Like there's been a couple of times where they put me through the fucking ringer, and I'm agreeable, right? I'm really only disagreeable when they are trying to get me to do something that I know for a fact is fraught with peril, and it's no reason to do this. Like, oh, you want me to go live load in Dallas Fort Worth at the end of my clock? It's like, why? How about my shift is about to be over in a couple of hours. You let me sit here. They've let me sit there for an hour waiting for the plan. How about we just call it tomorrow's a new day, right? Tomorrow's a new day. And I feel like that message was received, although, truck driving, certainly, they will try to do it. They will test me again. And it was my first week back, so I did not quite know what to expect. Traffic, not nearly as bad as in the past, but I wasn't going like all the way across Dallas either, but it doesn't really matter. I'm rambling. Hey, Mr. T. AI, that's right, actually Indians. That's right. That's right, sir. I like that. AI equals actually Indians. Yeah, yeah. And again, we're not here to venerate Indians. I've had a lot of experience with Indians. They're people, man. There's it's a very different culture. Better culture in certain ways, much worse culture in other ways. But I don't want to get too far into that. If the ABT's still here, though, I don't know if I've ever told him that this truck, this Freightliner, whoever had control of it, maybe all the tractors at this company are this way. I'm scared to ask, but number one, the truck goes, well, it says it's going 76, but it's actually going 75. But truck goes 75, which is nice. None of the bullshit, nagging bullshit. The dash light doesn't explode, flashing at me when it decides I'm tailgating. There's none of this. Oh, you crossed over the line, and now it's like playing that board game Emergency. We have to hit you with the buzzer sound, right? None of that bullshit. Doesn't even have the adaptive cruise control, which actually I would like to have the option of turning it on and off. But if you have to have it one way or the other, I think I prefer it without the adaptive cruise control. So yeah, pretty good. This, other than the fact that unlike every Volvo I've ever driven, this motherfucker will not climb a hill. But so I almost went with the Volvo. I had a choice, and there was a Peterbilt on the yard. I've seen nobody else pick that for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I've never even driven a Peterbilt. It's Kenworth, but for some reason, the body of the tractor, like the the actual cab part, where it connects to the frame or whatever. I guess you got the airbag suspension or the cab, whatever. I'm not a mechanic, but for some reason that gap between like the frame and the body of the cab and everything, it's just open space. Like you can just see clear through it. And I'm looking at it like, why isn't that covered with something? It's fucking bizarre. And I've seen a couple of other tractors like that since then, and I was on the verge of maybe picking it, and I was like, I can't be fucking looking at that. It's freaking me out. Like what is that? And I'm sure I'm just assuming every tractor has that gap, but it's covered up with cladding or whatever. Like why expose that? I don't get it. Strange, quite strange. But I'm pretty sure this transmission's on its way out. Oh, and before I forget, full locking differentials. I've got the interaxle lock, and then each differential on the rear end locks individually. How about that? I've never had a tractor with all that. Off Should I go off roading? Like what? I mean, obviously, I understand mechanically the potential uses. But so far, I've only used the interaxle lock or whatever it's called, or intraaxle. Yeah, intraaxle. Intra. I think what happens is you get one wheel on each. You get open diffs on both axles, both drive axles. I think is what that ends up being. I think so. Reduces the ability of getting stuck on one fucking power wheel, one wheel trying to just spinning and can't get traction. That's my understanding of how that works. Perhaps I'm a little off. Well, now the fucking lane is ending. The speed limit just dropped to 55. I was passing a truck, and he either has no idea what's happening or is just being a dick. Uh, but now I have to slam the brakes on and get behind him because my lane's ending. And I didn't really want to be going 66 and a 55 anyway. Of course, he's probably local and knows the road. It's like, I've never been here, sir. I don't think I came this way last time. At 3 miles, we get on I-80 anyway. It's not like it matters. Oh, and I had some 20-year-olds in a probably on some kind of stupid, delivering furniture for Home Depot or whatever, in a box truck, like a enterprise rental box truck. And there was road construction in this town in Pennsylvania, and I'm in the correct lane because I actually saw the signs that say right lane ends. And then there was a lot of stoplights, and it's a big clusterfuck, and people don't understand not to block the intersection, and all this crazy shit's going on. So there's like 3 cars stacked up, actually doing the right thing to merge into the lane ahead of me. And this fucking box truck thinks he's going to bully his way in front of me, which meanwhile, we were at the light beside each other. All he's got to do is get my attention and be like, hey, man, you mind if I get in front of you? Oh, yeah, sure, go for it. But, I let people in just as a natural, as just I'm a considerate driver, but then I let 3 cars in. I can't just let, there's 100 cars behind. I can't just let everybody in, like I have to go at some point. And they decide that they're just going to force their way in. It's like, oh, really? Oh, really? Uh, Let me show you how this is going to go. Well, it ended with them uh, looking foolish. Just had to stop right there. And while watch my trailer go by the front end of their box truck. Fucking bozos.
Reduce speed.
It's like, what is this? I guess they mistook my kindness for weakness. Well, and that's one of the things about truck driving is when people need to get in traffic, a lot of folks, they understand that to attack the space immediately in front of my tractor because of how slow these things accelerate. Many people will just, as soon as they see a big rig, that they will just begin to attack that space. The problem with that is then everybody starts doing it. Right. Like, why should I go through, that cycle of let's just all attack this space? That's crazy. And you know how humans are, once they see one person doing it, it's like everybody's kind of scared to do it, and then one person goes for it, and now everybody's going for it. And I've talked about before, being on like a big 4-lane highway, like with driveways, and lights and all of this. Yeah, this guy's definitely probably drives this route every day. And if there's 3 cars stacked up to turn into whether making a left, whichever way they're turning, but a lot of times it's a left turn. So when the first car pulls out and I'm a good distance away, you can be sure there's a pretty good chance that second car is going to say, okay, it's probably clear for me too. And then they're going to come behind. But then I'm watching like a hawk because now such a strong pattern, like such a strong, mechanism is being created of we're all just pulling out, that by the time that second car goes, if there's a third car, I'm already got my hand on the air horn to let them know, like, hey, just because those 2 went, and maybe just go ahead and go, but you're going to have to fucking go because there's a big rig coming. It's like I'm already on the air horn before the third car has even made it all the way up to where everybody's pulling out from. It's like I already know what's about to happen. They're pulling the fuck out because since the first two cars went, it has to be safe. See, which is that's shows you the poor instincts and lack of logic, on the general public exhibits, right? It's like, no, absolutely not. What if it was 50-50 when the first car went, and the second car just said, fuck it, I know I have driving skill, and, I can get the fuck out of Dodge if the shit goes wrong. Now by the time the third car's there, they're completely sure it's fine. It's like, absolutely, this could be a fucking hard no. Like what? And how, by the way, how do they know? Because they're in a pattern where they're not going to take enough time to make sure it's safe. Like, what is happening? So part of me being safe is I'm on the air horn. No, it is no longer safe to pull out. Big rig is coming at 60 miles an hour. And, some of them, what better way to get prescribed pain pills, they get T-boned by a fucking big rig. I saw one time, man, there was like this 50-year-old dude for some reason was wanting to do like freestyle BMX, like at the skate park or whatever. And he's going to drop into this bowl on a BMX bike. and the dude just goes straight down into the bottom. He just goes face first into the bottom of the fucking pool. And I just typed into the comments. I said, "That's one way to get prescribed pain pills." So it's like, what other explanation is this? In the description, he's like, "Yeah, broke my collarbone, broke my this, broke my that." Like, what other motivation would there be? Like, I've known people that they didn't say it, but they intentionally were going out and getting in car wrecks so they could get prescribed pain pills. Like, this really happens, you know. So, who can speak to these motivations of these individuals? And then, but again, back to the common sense and the word of mouthing of everything, just watching a person and then like projecting, pure motives onto an individual. Like, well, that's crazy. What's crazier than that? Interfacing with life as if every individual I come across is only ever operating from a pure intention. Like, what? Now, some of these motherfuckers are hoping I crash into them in this big rig so they can call the personal injury lawyer and hammer a check. Like, what? And it works. I see them in city driving sometimes. I see how they're intentionally positioning their cars to where if I'm not watching what I'm doing, I might clip them. Yeah, happens all the time. And I'm sure eventually if they do that enough times, they leave like the corner of their car like in the inner, just slightly in the other lane when they're making a left turn at a light or whatever. Eventually do that 100 times, maybe they'll get clipped. That could be 50 grand right there. 50 G's, baby. Tax free. And Dr. Drew used to talk about, working with, people in addiction medicine and all this. Some of these women, he said they would have like 20 lawsuits going. At a certain point, it just became a business to just, we'll go out here and sue everybody we can and, take a 5 grand settlement over here, 20 grand over there. It could be 100 G's a year, or 250,000 over 3 years. By the way, if anybody knows, there's a YouTube channel. This guy's named Mitchell here in the so-called truth community. That's more or less his job. It seems like every 5 years or so, he's angling for like 80 grand in one lump sum, which, that's the system, by the way. Like, I'm not hating on the fella, but, that's a specific thing. It's quite a specific thing there. Not sure I would be willing to do that. At least not to, go around, constantly, wait again, anticipating a police presence that's sure to come, and then behaving in ways that make it more likely to be able to get a settlement or sue, right? Where no lawyer's going to take the case. It's going to be a pro se type of deal, and eventually he's going to go down to City Hall and go to these, the city council enough that they're finally just going to be sick of fucking hearing his voice and eventually just cut him a check, right? I mean, that's what that is. It's just like, what's it cost for you to never see your face again, or you'll be around town next year. We'll just know to leave you the fuck alone. Not you, the listener, but Mitchell, the bozo. Again, fair. I mean, that is the system, by the way. And it's like, oh, he ought not do that. I don't know. I would say the system, as it stands, actually is incentivizing and rewarding such behavior. It's just I respect myself on some level enough, and then just I was raised a certain type of way. Not to just live my life based on such shenanigans. I'm not above suing. I certainly, would absolutely if and I hope Kim Before the Storm gets paid. If anybody knows that channel, Kim Before the Storm, CHEM. They fucked with the wrong dude, man. He's finna get paid. I wonder what size check they're gonna have to cut. He's gonna show Mitchell how it's done. And then I think this whoever this RV park is, or this RV membership. He's about to take a bite out of their ass too. Good. What up, Sam High? And a lot of people, especially with me being born in the time warp in Southeast Arkansas, it's this idea of, culturally, like that's shameful. I'm like, bull fucking shit. Oh, and then I love this when when it's the cops having to pay, and then people are like, well, why should the local taxpayers be on the hook for that? Because they're the ones who employ these cops. That's why they have the power to say, as what you saw in, I believe, Camden, New Jersey, where they just had to, I think it was Camden, it's one of those places. Eventually, the cops were such fuck ups. The city folk were like, hey, no more police force, meaning fire everybody and we're starting over, right? Any town can do that. So it's like, yeah, don't employ the type of police that are going to violate rights and such that now the taxpayer's on the hook for 250 G's into, Kim before the storm's pocket or whatever. Hell, maybe he'll take them to trial and get a milli out of them. I don't know. How long can they drag out paying him? And that is the settlement part is, okay, we pay you a check today and this is all settled and, you're not able to, you got to sign this NDA, blah, blah, blah. What if he wanted to take the better part of a decade and just say, fuck you. I'll take it all the way and we're going to get every penny possible. It could be $2 million, but it's 10 years. It's 7.5 to 10 years. Because they're going to find. But yeah, I want to get into this topic of fundamentals, which I think I've been sort of, getting more, and I've gotten into it here and there on the spiritual type discourses, the recent discourses, the ins and outs, right? The various practices, but fundamentals, and this Mike Andes, that little fella in the yellow shirt, the yellow polo shirt, Augusta Lawn Care Service. But you can tell, man, I've watched enough of this guy's videos. Like this, this guy's gonna just take over everything, and this is gonna be a self-made billionaire. But by the time he's 55, but a billion will be like 100 million is today or whatever. But he's gonna be filthy fucking rich, most likely. And a very pragmatic, intelligent guy. But definitely you could tell just completely, cutthroat business person, just absolutely cutthroat, which arguably is required to become a self-made billionaire. One would think, at least in the conventional sense. And so he does these consulting and then, part of the consulting is, I'm assuming, whoever's business he's attempting to turn around, these business turnarounds, he shows up on site, but then it's like, yeah, we're going to make this into a YouTube video also. And probably, they get a discount for participating in the YouTube video. And of course it's advertisement for their business. And so this most recent video that dropped, he shows up on site, and it's used to be like a 3-way partnership, and they're just, all they're doing is mowing lawns, but they're also doing like large landscaping projects. Some facility got built somewhere and now somebody's going to come in and get, I don't know, 20 grand or whatever it is to just, here's the property, just you fucking do it. Show us what your proposal is and just fucking do it. 30 grand, whatever it is. But it's mostly yard mowing. And and again, this is back to the common sensing and the word of mouthing. When you just going around talking to people and saying, I'm thinking about going into lawn care, and probably watching some YouTube videos, and it's like, wow, some people are even just they're able to mow the yards for free and make content out of it. And I can just imagine all of the things people tell themselves, and then but we are at the end of the day, we're talking about grown ass white men, who believe themselves to be, middle class and were raised, most likely with a mother and a father in the home, potentially, maybe a stepfather, but the these are your traditional family values conservatives, at least what is, even if in nomenclature only. But these are the same type of people. Why study the fundamentals of a lawn care business when every single person that if I'm the one going that wants to start this lawn care business, and I just go around town talking to the people I already know, because they have wisdom and experience in life. And this is, historically, these are the ideas, right? That by the time somebody gets to 60, they have all this life experience and now they're wise. Yeah, those are the same people that are going to say, like, hey, keep it simple, stupid. You're mowing yards, like what could possibly go wrong? Well, what could possibly go wrong is eventually we have a YouTube content creator slash founder of this lawn care franchise, who's damn near from Canada. The guy's from Bellevue, Washington. This the little fella, Mike Andes, right? And he's now a year or two later, he's showing up, and it's hilarious because Mike Andes is like the son of a pastor, and he said he considered going into becoming a pastor for a living, but clearly he would have been some version of a Joel Osteen, because he's going to need to become a billionaire, right? So it's probably better for everybody that Mike Andes did not go into the clergy, or whatever we're calling it. But oh man. So I would just be like telling them, like, hey, why are you running a business and like you don't even have bookkeeping? Like, where are your facts and figures? Like, how come I don't have the data I need to consult? Like, basically, Mike Andes shows up and is like, I can't even do my job as a consultant because you guys you're not keeping any records of anything, right? And these are not like a lower class, from the trailer park folks. These are, out of the three, at least two of them went to the university somewhere. Maybe one of them has a degree. Like, these are not, their parents, would have been considered upper middle class probably. Again, I just listened to it. I didn't watch it, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on the money here. And just imagine starting a business involving three grown ass men with short haircuts, no effectively no visible tattoos. I'm assuming maybe one of them's tatted up. Who knows? But, these are, again, you're conservatives, and we love our families. We're head of the household. We're providers. And by the end of the episode, the two partners that are left, the one with the talent and the hard work, by the way, as far as I could tell, the only one of the three with talent and a work ethic, he fucking split, and they blamed him for everything, of course, because he's not around anymore. Meanwhile, they can't even figure out how to get him off the website. They can't even figure out how to get his fucking face off the web. It's hilarious. And now they're trying to explain to Mike Andes how their web guy, well, they texted him or whatever, but he didn't show up, because we asked him to get that other fella off the website, And then I'm just watching this or listening to it like, is this real? So when I meet these people in person, I know what these people are. I don't see like, oh, there's a nice pickup truck and it's nicely wrapped, right? And then like these guys, their shirts are tucked in, their clothes are washed, right? But now they're telling Mike Andes, they're admitting by the end that, yeah, we really don't know what the fuck we're doing in business. And acknowledging that on some level they knew when they started this business that they don't know what they need to know to operate a business, and they have no intention of learning up to that point. None whatsoever. Like But again, the word of mouthing and the common sensing around town is, oh, you just kind of figure it out as you go. It's lawn mowing. Yeah, well, it's lawn mowing and it's a business. It's not a fucking 7-year-old's lemonade stand. By the way, I bet you the 10-year-old with the lemonade stand has proper record keeping. It's 50-50. Flip a motherfucking coin. If it's a girl, it's almost assured there's record keeping. Whether it's in her mind, it's somewhere is a goddamn ledger of transactions. Or at least at the end of the day, we took in this and then our expenses were that. Like it's something, right? Something is on paper somewhere. And that's where you get the concept of buying a job because, part of, and this is a lack of masculinity, by the way, folks. When we say, I won't even accuse that of being feminine. What I'll say about that is here's the TA. Let me see how long does it take to get to the TA. I need to know this in case I run this route again. Waiting for the tablet to catch up. Come on, tablet. You can do it. Come on, tablet. Maybe it can't do it. Well, anyway, never mind that. So that's and by the way, do people even know what's going on inside them? Back to the fundamentals, the concept of an unexamined life, and all of this. So what's happening that they don't know is happening psychologically is they know when they're going into business that they don't understand business. They know that, but that's to be put away, and every time they mention to one of their people around town, they're expressing, fears and anxieties around tying the lives of their families and their manhood in some way to a business, but not having the business acumen, but certainly probably having the ability to develop it. And then, but that only happens by getting outside of one's comfort level and then going around town. Some of the asking of other folks is, all you need is one person like me that'll say, well, man, obviously you're going to have to, from day one, keep these kind of records. And then, the county and the city are going to expect you to pay taxes on, some sort of ongoing basis. And then, there's this thing to be done and that thing to be done. And you need to know as this thing goes along, you need to know, like, what's your efficiency on the job? When you begin to hire workers as the business grows, what's their efficiency compared to your efficiency? Because remember, you're the boss. Like, you're going to work harder than they, like all of these things, right? And see, they may not even go into business if somebody is just like telling them all the things to do that they're going to need to do, because they just want to show up, do the easy part of cutting the lawns, right? And then take in the money and then drive around town in the pickup truck with the, it's got a note on it. Or maybe these folks actually have money and bought the truck outright, who knows? But they're not tracking their business expenses. They're not tracking, all they know is money comes in and money goes out, which is, why is that? Because now they've avoided the part where they might be operating a losing business. So if I go to my job as a truck driver, there's realistically no way for me to be bad at the job, but to be able to lie to myself. There's too many in my face markers if I were to be doing a bad job. But what if I was able to go into business with two other folks and there's enough resources and enough capital and enough money coming in, at least during the season, to where actually we're not making money in the long run. And this is where a lot of times Mike Andy shows up and they're like, yeah, we haven't taken a paycheck. So like it might be a husband and a wife business owner. We haven't paid ourselves in 3 years or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, that's how you know your business is losing money. Like, that's how you know, best case scenario, the business is breaking even. Best case scenario. Like, But so why are people operating this way? Why are they skipping the fundamentals? Because the fundamentals, once the person develops the fundamentals, they lose the ability to pull the wool over. They can no longer plausibly pull the wool over their eyes. Same thing with spiritual principles. Same thing with spiritual fundamentals. So if a person goes to a building on a regular basis, thinks they're checking these certain spiritual boxes via religion or whatever, their yoga, whatever it is, right? Well, until they begin to master, and then do master the basic fundamentals of whether it's a business or a spiritual, an undertaking of spiritual practice, right? As long as the fundamentals are never examined and grasped, there's always a muddying of the waters. So the person is always able to claim credit for plausibly performing properly, right? So these people don't even know what is motivating them to do the things that they're doing. They don't even know, right? And again, what you'll see from the manosphere and the red pill, and this is why I think it's a bunch of nonsense, although I do from time to time take in some of that content for my own purposes, unrelated to the reason why the people make the video. I watch Mike Andes, but I'm not going to go into the home service business. At least not anytime soon. Probably never. But it's a lack of masculinity. So the same people, so you'll have you'll have two partners. They're both stoic, right? They come across as stoic, sort of soft-spoken in a way, right? But then, which is associated with what? Masculinity, right? But then they're behaving in a lack of masculinity in their business, because what's masculine is from day one to say, we're keeping records. We're hiring a bookkeeper. Why isn't one of their wives doing the bookkeeping? Number one, but that's okay. You're probably, but by the way, who's keeping things going? Who's probably keeping the fucking lights on at home? I bet you both their wives work. Now, the guy who split, his wife probably ain't, just has her side hustle that she enjoys. I bet these fellas broads are keeping the lights on while they LARP as successful businessmen, because as long as they can put gas in the pickup with the wrap on it, and as long as they show up and cut the lawns, they can with at the level of their self-image. Now we're businessmen. We're better than a wage slave. No, that's worse than a wage slave. There is now. I will say there's no, there's no virtue in hard work performed for a rich corporation. Okay, but at the same time, there is honor in going to motherfucking work, punching a clock, getting a paycheck every week, and feeding one's family. Like, there is honor in that, over and above driving around town and people look at these guys as if, look at them, they're something. No, they're not. They're absolutely not something. They don't even, they can't even, they can pay Mike Andes to come help them turn their business around, and they haven't even done the most basic parts of their own. They're not even minding their own business. Right? 2 rules of business. Number 1, stay up out of mind, or mind your own. Number 2, stay out of mind. They're not even doing number 1. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, Benton is comical. Benton is a ridiculous person. Benton minds his fucking business, right? Period. Meaning, I'm on top of my business. I know exactly where I'm at with respect to my business. Now, I had trouble remembering which trailer went where earlier, but I have the records in my phone. Like, if I need to, I can refer to the records. When the lady asked me my trailer number when I was delivering, I was a little hesitant, and I went from memory. And then, she asked me again because she could tell I wasn't sure. And I was like, yeah, oh yeah. While we were waiting, I double checked. I'm on top of my business, right? These guys don't even know how to go get the trailer number in this scenario. They don't know where to go locate the information. Think about that. And probably both mama's boys. Probably both mama's boys. Ineffectual, weak, ineffectual fathers. But let's go out here and manosphere red pill content. Oh well, Marcus Aurelius, you got to be stoic. Or how about you be comical and outlandish and ridiculous like Benton, but you mind your motherfucking P's and Q's. You pick up every load on time. You deliver every load on time as much as humanly possible. And, you keep track of what needs to be tracked of, right? And the company asks something of you and you do your best to do it. So which is more important? Oh, well, let's go out here and I'll imitate the behaviors of a successful man, but not even do the most basic of my business. That's a lack of masculinity. That's not respectable. See, and I can't look myself in the mirror and respect myself, which is what that is a form of narcissism. That's a form of selfishness. It's a form of I'm better than whatever's going on. It's a form of that, which is I have to perform at a certain level. For me, I have to. I have no choice. Which means, in part, I can't really go work for the big corporation as far as for the long term because they cannot afford me, meaning I'm going to do too good of a job based on what they're paying. Right? I can only slack off so much, When I worked in the pet department in 1995 at a Walmart supercenter, and I really busted my ass until they showed me that they had absolutely no respect for me as a worker. And after that, I did the bare minimum, but I still stocked the empty shelves when I came in with the cat food, the dog food, and the cat litter. And I still stocked them before I left. So I still technically did my job, and I still went and, caught the live fish for people. It's just I didn't do anything beyond that. I went and sat in the break room for hours on end. Right? But I still did my motherfucking job. I did exactly what they paid for. Right? But who did I do that for? Not for them. I could have been just not stocking the shelves, and then, twice a week they're like, "Hey, man, if you don't stock those shelves, we're going to fire your ass." And then, okay, stock the shelves just enough, not to get fired. Right? Like some of this is for me. Where's the self-respect? And again, masculinity, right? But let's just have weak, ineffectual fathers, and then, okay, we'll just watch some YouTube videos, and Marcus Aurelius stoicism. That'll get us there. No, it won't. No, it will not. Absolutely not. And I've temporarily gotten to a point in my life where my woman was keeping the lights on, and I was sitting there while she was at work going, something's gone really wrong here, and it must be rectified. Like there wasn't this like I have a wrapped pickup truck and I'm a successful business owner, but I can't show you on paper how that's the case, and I don't even have I have less than a month's revenue in the bank here. Like what is this? I'm sitting on the couch like, what the fuck is wrong here? And I must figure out how to fix this. Right? This cannot persist. That's called minding one's own business. Masculine. That's masculine. Right? It's not the part where the person's life is a train wreck and the family they claim to love is put in a bad position. And I had my daddy at one point was wealthy enough to pay cash for a nice home on the lake, in a resort town in Arkansas. And the next door neighbor, again, some kind of high income earner, probably 50 years old, loves his family, had a daughter, I don't know, 12-year-old daughter, 10-year-old, whatever. And then here he is on the weekend, gets on his Harley, no helmet. Here we go, going to hit the highways and byways of Arkansas, go for a bike ride. But he'll be the first to tell you how much he loves his family. And I'm like, motherfucker, if you love that family, put on a helmet, partner. Oh, but we're putting out an image. See, we're on the highways and byways with the image. Oh, do you love your family or do you love an image? See, not you, the listener. My apologies. The next door neighbor, and I'm watching this happen. I'm still in my 20s. This is a very fucking, not a very progressed Benton, but I could just see it. I'm like watching this guy because I said, okay, he's made enough money. He's probably self-made. He's figured out how to make probably 500 G's a year or whatever, 300 grand a year, saved up. Uh, able to get a more. Although that was back during the time of the liars loans and the ninja loans. Maybe he was faking the funk. I don't know. That's also possible. Maybe he was a scam artist. See, I'm just assuming he was. Maybe he's a fucking con artist. I don't know, but there's something incongruous about I'm married, I got this daughter, but I got to go get on this Harley, and the wind, the wind needs to. I need the wind going through my hair. That's not masculine. I'm not even going to call it feminine because that's an insult to women, fellas. That's a, to insult. That's an insult to womanhood to take a bitch-made male and call him feminine. The women I know ain't bitch-made like that. That's an insult to women to call these guys who lack masculinity. Oh, well, you're feminine. What are you talking about? Perhaps I'm in touch with my feminine side. What's that got to do with all of this masculinity that I'm embodying? Like what? What are you talking about? Meanwhile, I'm not running around, you know, uh, even thinking about that. Like, what is this? Crazy, absolutely crazy. So, and then the inability of the individuals to connect this of like, yeah, tell everybody how much I love my family, but then the next door neighbor just who doesn't know me at all and is never going to meet me, that's me, Benton in this scenario, is going to watch me get on my Harley and go drive the dangerous highways of Arkansas in the most, by the way, the most isolated area of the entire state. What? In a resort town where people go to the lake and get fucking hammered, even though it's a dry county. Bit of a paradox there. So if they have to bring their own booze, maybe they bring too much, who knows? But, the inability to connect, because remember, I've given my family this nice house. I'm providing them with everything they need materially in a consumer society, keeping up with the Joneses, you know. But then what about the part where the guy gets killed on the motherfucking highway on his Harley? And I would say don't ride the motorcycle at all. 10-year-old daughter, you don't get to have a motorcycle, sir. You don't get to ride a motorcycle. Oh, but I want to ride a motorcycle. Don't care. What's more masculine than I'm responsible for guiding and protecting this woman and that daughter, and I want to ride a Harley, right? Or more correctly, I probably want to go to the next county over and ride around with my side piece on the back of my Harley, right? I mean, let's call it what it is, right? Let's call it what it is, fellas. No, you don't get to do that, buddy. Now, again, I believe in freedom, make your own choices, but I've sat across from a guy in his 20s when I was bebopping around the country, living out of a backpack in Isla Vista, California, near the UCSB campus. This guy was from Kansas and was describing to me about how he had knocked some chick up and now he had like a young daughter. And instead of, dealing with the mom and getting a job and supporting at least his daughter, he's bebopping around the country, living this vagabond lifestyle, doing whatever he wants, and then wants to tell me, and which is fine. I believe in freedom, but you're not going to sit. Then he thinks he's going to sit across a picnic table from Benton and sit there and go, "I'm there for my daughter." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "You're over here fucking around with me and this other bozo." I said, you're not going to sit here because that's masculinity. You're not going to sit here and look me in the face and say you're there for I'm there for my daughter. No, you're not, sir. No, you are not. And in fact, I've been thinking what I'm about to tell you this whole time, which is, how about you take your happy ass back to Kansas, eat whatever shit them women are going to make you eat, so your daughter has a father. How about you do that? And perhaps don't stick your dick in crazy next time. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, partner. Meanwhile, I wouldn't have had shit to say. I would have kept my thoughts to myself, but you just gonna keep pushing the point, right? Again, lack of masculinity. So businessmen, you know, traditional family values, conservative businessmen, probably raised in a home with a mother and a father to some extent, maybe went off to college, white collar, fucking MAGA, uh, Christian churchgoers, don't even bother to learn the fundamentals because they go around town and people are just like, how complicated could it be? It's just mowing lawn. No, it's not just mowing yards. Go ask Mike Andes if it's just mowing yards. He's already a millionaire from mowing yards. If it's just mowing yards, how is this motherfucker a millionaire? It goes way beyond mowing yards. What are you? But that's what happens culturally when people believe we can just go around town and ask every bozo we see, what do they think about if I was to go into business, right? And maybe there's a bit around to say, well, yeah, it's great if you, what what is your business acumen, you know? And I'll talk to them for 5 minutes and be like, well, shit, I know way more about business than they do, and I'm not even in business. So perhaps take a course. I don't know. Watch some YouTube videos, take some notes, right? Figure out what is step one. I mean, this is a fundamental thing, by the way. Okay, where are we if we want to go out and mow yards and get into a partnership and have a business and an LLC or an S corp? Where we are at step zero, meaning there is no LLC, there is no S corp, there is no business license, there's no pickup, there's no wrapped pickup truck. Yeah, I mean we all own lawnmowers, but then again, the 10-year-old has lemons and glasses, and motherfucking ice and lemonade, right? You see what I mean? Like the fact that the most bare bones elements of the job and the business are already there. Yeah. Same thing with the 10-year-old's lemonade stand. Like, what are we talking about here? Children. What are we talking about? Children. Are we grown or are we children? Right. And a lot of this is extended adolescence because, I'm 50, grew up in a time warp. So I'm 70 culturally in some ways. And these guys are 38. Right. They're children. These are 38-year-olds, head of a household, children. And that's where, people like EBT, as critical as I can be at times, he's at least a motherfucking grown ass man, head of a household, right? And I shouldn't even say at least. Like, I respect that. And he's, approximately that age as far as that, somewhere in there, right? He comes across older than he really is for whatever reason. Probably not a bad sign entirely. But, is there any version of Mike Andes showing up and like, this is the start of the video. Mike Andes is, I can't even help them. But what's hilarious is, he has this way of saying all of this without actually saying it. So he's never speaking in a way to where the people can actually become offended. Whereas if Benton shows up, I'm just going to offend everybody the moment I get there, and then we're going to have a cooling off period, and then actually I will probably be more effective in the long run. Perhaps. Although you do draw more. What do they say? More bees with honey. But why am I down here trying to sweet talk these partners into doing what they should have already done? Right. Again, it's a lack of masculinity and it's a lack of strong male leadership. Right. You know, uh, like what is this? So how, and again, back to society, how in the world is there ever going to be a proper society in the way that people, many individuals, especially the so-called truth community, seem to have some notion of a functional society even existing in the first place, even though it's dysfunction after dysfunction after dysfunction. And then, simultaneously, these are the people who are going to, come together and reform dystopia. Well, maybe, but not until I see people mastering the fundamentals. Take it to the fundamental. Who wants to do that? Because there's a vinyl rap business in town. I don't need to know any fundamentals to purchase a brand new, Super Duty Ford pickup and drive it across town and get it wrapped. And there's a local business in town, or I can mail order some embroidered fucking polo t-shirts, right? Or polo shirts rather. And I'm got khaki pants on, and what else is there? I got my short. I'm properly groomed. My hygiene is good. You know, I'm stoic. What could go wrong? Oh, there's no end to the things that could go wrong, sir. If one is unwilling to examine and master the fundamentals, there's no end to the calamities that could befall you, sir. It could end in divorce and being ostracized from one's own progeny. Like there's any number of calamities could potentially befall the person. But in their mind, well, we've done what we've been told and taught to do. Yeah, in a way that lacks masculinity, right? Probably because a lack of masculine leadership within the household, most likely. Because why? Because a man ain't a man, got a woman for a boss. A man is not a man if a woman is his boss. Because a man cannot accept the leadership of something that's beneath him, ladies. Sorry. And if ladies don't like hearing that, not my problem. Do you think they like being around a bunch of males who are LARPing as men? And the women know that these men aren't even capable of leadership? Well, guess what? If they're not capable of leadership, those aren't men, right? Part of the status of a man is, oh, well, shit, I'm in this situation. Somebody's got to steer this ship. I really don't want to, but it's my motherfucking duty, because if I don't do my motherfucking duty enough times in a row, I might lose my motherfucking man card. And I can't look myself in the mirror if I've lost my man card, right? Because, that TV show Branded, that's a real thing to some extent, when you're branded and you're a man. It's like, well, there's the opposite of that also, which is like, yeah, I can convince these bozos around me to LARP as if I'm a man, but I still would know inside that I'm not a man, right? I would still know inside that I wasn't a man. So that's what's wrong with these guys. One out of the three of them probably was an actual man, and he fucking split, and then they played it as and again, I won't say in a feminine way, in a way that lacks masculinity. Here comes Mike Andes, and they're like, yeah, we told the guy that's not around anymore that if he wasn't going to do this, that, and the third, he needs to hit the bricks. Well, it turns out he was the only one actually doing the fucking work. He's probably the only reason there's money in the bank still, right? So again, we can observe that maybe women behave this way at times. Yeah, maybe they do. Meanwhile, my own grandmother was quite successful in business, in small business, quite successful. What's the gender got to do with it? So I hesitate to call it feminine. It's a lack of masculinity, right? So do you think the one masculine force is going to stick around for this? Hell no. But then now we got the two males LARPing as men, with all the accoutrement, at the surface level. Girl boss. These are two girl bosses. And I will call them girl boss. right? I'm not going to say they're being feminine. It's a girl boss. But even that's an insult because the girl boss of the lemonade stand at least probably keeps enough facts and figures that Mike Andes can show up and be like, all right, well, because of this number over here, we need to take this other action. And then, that's going to bring up this other number. And then a month from now, when this other number goes up, now now you can spend money over here in marketing to get these certain types of leads. And then we're going to fire the bottom fucking 10% of customers because they're not even profitable. We're going to we're going to fire the bottom 10% by raising prices. And you're going to want to freak out because you lack masculinity. That's going to freak you out. But actually, that's better because they complain so much, you actually lose money on them anyway. Right. But the lack of masculinity is to always muddy the waters. And what does the muddying of the waters achieve? We can never be pinned down and critiqued. We can't be criticized because every time there's a valid criticism, we can just, in a way that lacks masculinity, there's always plausible deniability. Now it's evasive action. We can always take evasive action to avoid being pinned down. Versus Benton prefers to do a job where you can't pretend to pick up and deliver the loads on time. It's not a thing. I'm doing piecework. I don't get motherfucking paid unless I pick up and deliver the loads. Now, it's better for me to pick up and deliver on time. It's better for the company. It's better for the customer, right? And it's better for me when I look myself in the mirror. If I'm on time, I'm late. It's not. That's me, right? I'm not doing that for them. I'm doing that for me, right? And this is standard operating procedure for your average bozo dude these days. It really is. This is standard. This is just status quo. It's just normal now, right? That shit wouldn't have flown for 5 seconds when I was 10 years old. I couldn't have got away with that when I was 10 years old. You got 38-year-olds out here that they're living their entire life based on this stuff. Think about that. They're never the king of their castle. They're never the man of the house, ever. If my dad wasn't around, I was the man of the house when I was 13. And my mom was right there. But if he's not there and here comes bad shit or danger, I got to go protect the family. That's what man of the house means, right? Like what? And this is the further failure of society. This is society not allowing males rather, to be what they're intended to be, and then males failing to just say, well, we're going to do it anyway. Because that's what's masculine, is to say, yeah, I understand that society no longer accepts me, being what I was made to be. Guess what? I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry about your luck. And if y'all don't like it, too bad. Too fucking bad. But then, of course, those are the kind of guys who are just not going to get married these days. They're not going to, unless an accident occurs when they're young, they're not going to have children because they are not going to be willing to subject themselves to the court system, child support, right? Divorce court. That was Gen X and the boomers. So the actual masculine dudes with some testosterone, outside of maybe, culturally the South, where it's, certain areas of the country, it's like, yeah, Arkansas, yeah, there's going to be child support, but it's never going to be more than like $400 a month. So, I mean, who really cares at that point, Because why? Because In Arkansas, it's so backwards that if the state government tries to start telling people that your child support's $1,800 a month, that's never going to, it's just never going to fly. The pitchforks will come out. But then how many more generations will it be? And then in places like Arkansas, it'll be just as pussyfied in Arkansas in 2 generations as it is a lot of other places now, like this same thing, Louisiana or Alabama. It's not going to last. This is not going to stand the test of time. It's behind the times when it comes to becoming pussified. So much so that an Arkansas born, my 30-year-old dispatcher at this last company I worked for or worked with was driving over an hour twice a day. Actually, I think it was like an hour and a half twice a day, Monday through Friday, to go pick his boys up, drive them to school, then drive to work. Right. And then went and picked them up after school, Monday through Friday, because he's going to do whatever he has to do to be in his son's lives. But he fully accepts the part where his wife is, they've divorced, and she, the court system says that, this is the arrangement or whatever. And the boys live in this school district, and, that's where the mom lives. And this is just what it is. And so this is what he does now. That shit never would have flown when I was younger. But you see the progression of, the fact that my father's generation in Arkansas never would have accepted that. What's that have to do with the fact that this 30-year-old now does accept it? So what will his boys accept when they are 30 years old and have if are they gonna see all of this and say, well, fuck that? Why in the world would I go bother to get married and have boys of my own when I reasonably understand what's going to happen? Right. And again, shout out to Drew World Order, Chalk Body Outline YouTube channel, I believe he was being sincere on some level when he acknowledged that I'm ahead of my time. Yeah, I'm so ahead of my time. This is probably, it's also not in my path, but this is probably also the reason I'm not a father and most likely never will be one. And again, there has to be room for the possibility, but most likely never going to happen. Probably the same person who could connect those dots by the time I was in my mid-20s of seeing the neighbor, getting on the Harley and looking at him, his custom, expensive, nice luxury home and his nice vehicles and his, nice Harley, and is not wearing a helmet, but he loves his family. It's like, well, okay. He says he does. I don't know what am I observing here? So probably I could just sort of see the way society was going and say, why would I even bother? Right? Why bother? And I'm responsible, much like Larry Benton, my father. I know for a fact I would just do whatever the fuck I had to do, whatever that would have been. Probably I have a greater purpose than making some children. The fact is, and this is, you may never hear anything more narcissistic than what I'm about to say. As far as I can tell, my father's life is a success solely based on he created me. He made me and raised me, right, in a certain type of way, as much as I was, let's not even get into the Jehovah's Witness thing. But as far as I can tell, mission accomplished solely on bringing me into the room. And I mean that. Like, that's probably true. I'm laughing because it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, mission well done, sir. Because what's he really done in his life? What's the point of, being a successful business person and then just retiring into poverty? My grandmother is less in poverty than my father, and they were both small business people. And it burned him up when I even referred to her as a successful small business person. He got offended, and then he got competitive with me because he knows he fucked that shit off. He squandered. What's the point of busting one's ass all those years to build up a small fortune and be frugal to squander it all? Like, what are you doing? What? Huh? Mission accomplished? Mission motherfucking failed. But, it kept me in, I got to grow up in a nice home and, always had food on the table. But wasn't spoiled whatsoever. My sisters were, and then my parents wanted to act like hilariously. Listen to this shit. They used to talk to me like I was spoiled because they, for some reason, opened up the checkbook for both my sisters, and I had to correct my goddamn parents when I was in my early 20s because they wanted to talk to me like I was spoiled. I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "That's what y'all are doing with my sisters." I said, "I remember y'all finally bought me a nice basketball, and I didn't understand that the blacks that I played basketball with down at the local elementary school, that if I turned my back on my brand new basketball, we're going to steal my motherfucking basketball, and then just everybody was going to disappear, so that we could just act like, well, everybody left and we don't know what happened to your basketball." That happened to me. And then I went home and told my parents, and they were like, "Well, I bet you don't do that again because now you don't have a basketball." With my sisters, they would have just that same day went out and bought them another basketball. Right? You're not going to treat me like I was spoiled. Like, but by the way, that was good for me that I wasn't spoiled. That was good for me. Right? I never lacked what I needed, but if I wanted something, it wasn't on the menu necessarily. Good. That was a good thing, you know. Like, what even is this? And I forgave him then. It was like, but I was like, what do you mean? Because they would talk about us kids and, oh, well, y'all are spoiled. What do you mean spoiled? Do I need to go back through the circumstances of my upbringing? I mean, yeah, we had everything I needed. I don't remember being spoiled. Huh? When was that? Oh, you mean after I went to college and then y'all opened up the checkbook for my sisters and I never cared, never barely noticed, and certainly didn't give a fuck. But now going to treat me like I didn't share in any of those spoils, huh? What? So when that's the level of what brought me into the realm, uh, again, what greater accomplishment on the part of my father than he made me, right? Well, I mean, what else has the man really done other than the basics? Again, the basics of being responsible, providing for one's family. Yeah, pretty much everybody did back then. Good job. Guess what? I would have also done the same thing, but I wasn't foolish enough, and the timing wasn't right to go into that. Right? I could probably read the writing on the wall by then. Probably, presumably. As far as what was going on culturally and in society. And to me, it's a fairly basic thing. And this is where the MGTOW and the red pill manosphere is so fucking off the mark because they don't understand that they're parroting and talking about a lot of these ideas, but instead of just living them would be, we live our masculine principles. And if a woman follows along with that, great. If not, she's not our woman, right? My woman, I've had 3 women in my life. None of them ever had the option of doing anything other than following my leadership because the moment they failed to follow my leadership, they would have discontinued being they had to affirm. The only way to affirm on an ongoing basis that I'm their man and they're my woman is to follow my leadership, not by me dominating them and being domineering, but by me leading. And if they fail to follow, it won't be more than a month or two, and that's not my woman anymore. See, this manosphere red pill stuff doesn't teach that. because that requires an inner strength. That requires an inner confidence of, I don't need this woman because I know if she decides not to be my woman, another woman will come along. And even if they don't, this is what happened to me after the social media age. Oh, guess what? Now it's 2012 or whatever, or whenever women stopped being willing to enter into partnership with me, and me be the boss, right? Because I am the boss. Because somebody's always the boss. Now, what does a woman say? And this men fall for this, males fall for this. So a woman says, well, it's equal, right? And then the man, this is Adam and Eve, by the way. This is Adam and Eve. This is the, hey, Adam, eat this fruit, right? The woman bites the apple and then offers it to Adam. And then he bites the fucking apple. So the woman says, well, no, we're equal. No, bitch. In a relationship of a male and a female in a romantic relationship, somebody's in charge all of the time. Now, in some relationships, it goes back and forth, right? And there is a thing called topping from the bottom. The submissive partner can actually manipulate things such as, just, yeah. And I have my own versions of just let me believe I'm in charge. Like, I'm not so fucking dumb that I don't realize that it's not completely up to me what's happening here. Yeah, I don't need to be a fucking dictator necessarily. But when I put my foot down, at the end of the day, I will have the veto power, period, end of story. Or I will end up in a relationship with some other broad. Like, this is how it's going to go. But I don't need to tell her that. If we ever get to the point where I'm explaining that to her, I've already lost the upper hand. Well, they say, what do you mean upper hand? Upper hand means when I decide to grab my nuts and lead this motherfucker, she's finna follow. Or we're not going to be together. That's not a threat. That's as a friend of mine once said, an older fella, he said, I don't keep slaves, meaning she's free to go at any time. You don't have to stay here. Bye. I've had them leave just to see if I was going to chase them. I didn't need Red Pill. I didn't need Manosphere when number one acted like she was going to leave just to see if I was going to follow. I'm like, bye, bitch. And then she comes back like, I thought you would follow. Why would I follow you? You're leaving. Why? For what? What's in it for me? Right? So, it's again, not understanding the fundamentals and not trusting in the basics of, what is the woman getting out of this? Right. And then also recognizing on some level just the ridiculousness of being a man in the first place. This is fucking ridiculous. It's laughable. It really is. And I had sisters, I've been blessed to have a lot of awesome women in my life. And I've talked about how historically I've identified for whatever reason with female characters in fiction and movies and TV shows and books, right? Like, for somehow I was able to grasp there is just ridiculousness built right into what it is to be a man. It just is. It's fucking ridiculous on many levels. And there is some version of some self-deprecation that could be built in that. Like, why can't we laugh at ourselves as fellas? Well, this is where when a woman wants to continuously accuse a man of being insecure, it's like, well, that is sort of a feminine thing of women. That's sort of how women pick at each other. Meanwhile, none of the women I've ever been with has ever accused me of being insecure, because I'm not, number one. Number two, part of it is I embrace the inherent ridiculousness of inhabiting the physical, what was it? The Wonder Twins form of a man. Like, that's just ridiculous on its face on some level, like John Cleese and Faulty Towers levels of ridiculousness. It's fucking ridiculous, right? Like, it really is. And just the idea of an attractive, capable woman who's got her shit together, just watching Basil Fawlty go from one. Yeah, and I understand that the there was, even then, masculinity was being attacked on a level. But back then, yes, we are attacking masculinity through the medium of television, but society even then demanded that Basil Fawlty had to still come across as masculine. But things have degenerated to the point where these characters on television and all of this, they no longer even have to come across as plausibly masculine, right? And in fact, aren't even allowed to in a lot of cases. So, like, what even is this? You know? So, of course, the males are lost. How could they not be? I could start an entire business where the entire business is we just teach males between the ages of 20 and 30 how to be men. That's the whole business. Show up here, give me 20 grand, and in 3 months, I will turn a boy into a man. But he has to consent to it and agree to it, right? And part of that is when he pitches a fucking fit and wants to take his ball and go home, that's written into the contract. He's proven that he can, in exchange for a fee, Benton can turn a boy into a man. Sure, but there's got to be something in it for me, and we're going to need you to sign a NDA and a waiver, and all of this is going to have to happen, right? That's fine. And if you want to take your ball and go home, you get half your money, and it's I can't successfully turn other guys in. You, the one who's going to take his ball and go home, I can't even be successful because you're going to poison the motherfucking well. Not in a feminine way, in a way that lacks masculinity. See? In a way that lacks masculinity. I need you gone anyway. That's why I get to keep 10 of the 20. Oh, the guys, but then they want to try to negotiate probably. Well, actually, sir, we have a contract, so I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, you're leaving 10 days in. That's not my problem because you signed a contract, bozo. Surprise, surprise. You gave me 10 grand up front, right? And we've got a contract for the other 10, meaning, I need to at least, be able to show my work that I done my job, right? To get some of them are still going to crawfish and fuck me over, right? How about that? That's called life. That's part of the reason I'm not in business. Crazy, man. People are nuts. Oh, but we're stoic. Okay, yeah. Well, come to Benton's 2-month turn you into a man boot camp. Forget about Mike Andes. You don't even need him. Come to my, take 2 months off from your life, right? Come to my boot camp, and all questions will be answered. And it's like, oh, Benton is, he thinks he's this or he thinks he's that. No, society is so dysfunctional that somebody like me, who in my day, was fair to middling, right? In a lot of respects, that this is how ahead of the curve I now am, right? This is how, by extension, this is why Benton in his 40s was in an elevator in the public library. Their nose in my business, and as we got off the elevator, I just said, "What are you going to do? Follow me outside and beat the hell out of me?" And I just laughed at them. Just like, they're not men. The fact that one of them was twice my size and the other one had some muscles on him, and who knows? I can't. I don't even really know how to fight. I'm just looking at them like, what are y'all gonna do? Follow me outside and beat me up? They just laughed at him. It's like, y'all aren't even men. Like, that was the part that was left unsaid. It's like, I'm a man, you're not, so I don't know what to tell you. Like, but that's not me like emasculating them. They've never reached the point of being able to be emasculated. Like, the emasculation. These guys aren't even getting to the point of being able to be emasculated. You know, and I hate to even bring up the cuckoldry, but that's where the cuck chair comes in, right? Like, what is this? With what I understand and what I'm able to do, I should be able to work 3 months out of the year. Just, yeah, we'll crack the whip on these bozos that have, at least understood to some degree, they've understood to the level at which, wow, there used to be rites of passage. All right. I don't know how long we were gone, but we're back, I think. fundamentals, man. And it's just, it really, in that Mike Andes video, just gone into sophistication and complication, bypassing the fundamentals, right? And as a person whose mind, body, all right, maybe we're back. I did suspect we would run into connection issues on this route. So, and as we know, none of this is going to amount to a hill of beans anyway. So, there's always that. in the short run, and then I'll fuck right off. I don't want to be in charge of anything but me. And right, but not by being nice to people, not by treating people uh, kindly and gently, because it wasn't kind. It's not kind and gentle that they've been allowed as males to get to whatever stage in life they're in. And I exhibited and embodied masculinity to a greater extent when I was 13 than they ever have in their life. And by the way, I weren't nothing special by the age of 13, I can assure you. So I was still man of the house if my dad wasn't around. But part of that was my dad made sure that when he wasn't around, if my mom told me to do something, by God, I better do it, or there'd be a penalty. So I wasn't bossing my mom around. It was, if my pops wasn't there and some shit goes wrong, you got to go out there and maybe face your demise, partner. Meaning, hey, some stranger showed up and has a bad intention. That's not mama's job to go out. Mama gets to hide and call 911. Benton's got to run out. The 13-year-old Benton's got to run out there and maybe get dealt with. That's what it is to be a man, by the way. And that is one of the major separations between a man and a woman. Is a man and a woman are in bed together at 2 a.m. and it's the man's house. It's not the woman's house. Now she lives there. Now it is the woman's house in a way, but when I say it's the man's house, it's his castle. Meaning it is a castle. Meaning when the invading army comes, meaning the glass breaks at 2 a.m. downstairs, wifey poo stays in bed and calls 911, and I go downstairs to face my potential demise, and I kind of like it. Like, part of me is like, oh goody, this is going to be fun unless they kill my ass, right? There's no fear. There's adrenaline, right? There's no fear. It's, oh, I get to express my purpose. By the way, ladies, this is why I deserve to have a sandwich made for me. This is why I deserve the sandwich. Now, if a lady ends up in a relationship with a fella that don't deserve a sandwich, that's not my problem. That's not my problem. And every truck on the road's trying to follow Benton for some reason. I can't even get up to speed because every time I think I'm going to get up to 70, I look in my mirror and there's some truck thinks he's going to follow me to the promised land. So probably, there's something in me where they're just like, hey, we'll just fall in line behind Benton and follow him. Right? No, you will not. I'm not earning your pay for you. Now, that's an owner-operator trying to stay in business and wanting to draft to save fuel. I understand. I get it. But I'm not trying to look in the mirror every 2 seconds and see his funky ass. And I got all day long to just go 60. I can go 60 the whole way there since I don't have to pick up another load today. We got the clock. We got the clock to make it. And if we don't, it's fucking dropping a hook. They're 24 hours. So I can still deliver it today. I could take an 8-hour break and still deliver it today. So what the hell? And pick up tomorrow. I can go as slow as I want to go. I'm not going to be pushed and rushed. Again, that's masculinity. To say, no, man, I'm not going to be rushed. I'm the one choosing to drive at 4 a.m. You're not going to tuck in behind me and try to force me to go fast. You can ride behind me all you want. We're going to do it at 60. Oh, you don't want to go 60? Okay. See you later. That's masculine. That's masculine leadership, by the way. Masculine leadership is, this is what we're doing. You don't have to follow if you don't want to, but uh, clearly something is valued to where the person will choose to stick around, right? Whoever that may be. And that's what the red pill does not understand, because they're approaching masculinity and, quote, being a man backwards. And in fact, they are trying to they're trying to uh, backwards engineer what it is to embody manhood by attempting to be the antithesis of what a woman is. That's what's happening. The manosphere, the red pill, and MGTOW are trying to express themselves in a masculine fashion by embodying the antithesis of what it is to be a woman. And what I would assert is, yes, femininity is absolutely expertly able to assess masculinity or the lack thereof. But by observing femininity is not the way to get to masculinity. It's not by observing femininity and then, well, let's just not do let's just look at that and not do that. No, that's not, no. That's why they can't get to where they need to get to. That's how you end up with the Mike Andy's video of the 38-year-olds head of households, and their own women culturally, will only accept the male partner who at least is LARPing as if he's the head of the household and he wears the pants. Meanwhile, she knows deep down she's just patiently waiting to hope he will someday grow a sack, right? And I probably made more testosterone by the time I was 16 than they'll ever make in their lives. Now, some of that is the chemical attacks. Some of that is they're no longer getting the flow of testosterone in the womb. I may have been the last, I caught the tail end of we're getting the full shot of testosterone in the womb, right? Perhaps. Full motherfucking shot, you know. Part of me, adapting to, because of my chronic illnesses, adapting to living on 18, maybe, I don't know, 1,800 calories a day. I'm consuming more than that, but based on what my body's actually able to assimilate, 15 to 1,800 calories a day. Probably some of that is to keep my fucking hormones down, to some extent. Because I'm not trying to brag, but I can't hardly sleep at night sometimes because of there's physical things that happen for hours on end. Hours. I can't sleep because it's like, good Lord, there's a word for that, Again, I'm trying not to be, this new Benton is trying not to be graphic. Priapism. So it's a fucking medical term. Yeah. It's caused by too many androgens in the bloodstream. Literally, too much androgens in the bloodstream. So yeah, doesn't happen to me if I restrict my caloric intake. So good. I don't need that going on. You know. How does that serve me? I don't think it does. That's not good for anybody. Um, and surprise, surprise, both my high school girlfriend and both of my women, I didn't really give a fuck if they, cooked and cleaned and did all this. I didn't care. But the fact is, they would offer, at times to prepare a meal or just cook for me. And then if I ever was like, hey, do you mind fixing me something to eat? They would just go fix me something to eat. It wasn't like an affront to, it wasn't an affront to them at a level of, feminism or this or that. But see, the red pill and the manosphere, they will try to say there's something wrong with a mother. She gets to stay in bed and call 111, and I'm going to be partially looking forward to discovering who actually thinks they can get away with breaking into my house. Who actually thinks they can put my castle under? Are you kidding me? We better go show them how foolish it is. Yeah, I might die. So what? I'm going to die of something anyway. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? My job. I will do my duty. And furthermore, a woman knows when she's been sleeping beside a fellow for a year and a half, and she's going to have to go check it out. She knows. So you got the red pill manosphere guys. They are the guys sleeping in bed with the woman, and she knows that when the bad people come, that he's going to hide behind her. He's the mama's boy raised by women, and he's going to do the little boy version of, peeking out from behind, mama's skirt. Right. I was never in the house long enough to do that. You know, there was I never experienced a version of that in my entire life, ever. Not one time. Pops wouldn't have allowed it. Pops would have been like, "What are you doing, boy? What the fuck is wrong with you? We don't do that." That would have been the end of it. And he wouldn't have used profanity. It's like, what? You think you go hide behind a woman? What? We don't do that, son. That's a woman, sir. And yeah, that's his woman and his wife, and he just said it right in front of her. We don't hide behind women. And it was women and children, by the way. Women and children. Now I was a little boy, but it's the implication is you one day are going to become a man, whether you like it or not. So might as well get used to it now a little bit. Might as well get used to it now. As we pull into the fuel stop. And that's why I'm qualified to take boys, grown adult boys who understand that they're not men and understand that I am a man. And yeah, give me money and come to my boot camp. And most of you are going to quit. Some of you are going to quit, and that's fine. I don't give a fuck. It's not for you. I understand manhood's not for everybody, but those who stick it out, there will be some version of a money back guarantee. I'll put my name on it to that level. Because it ain't that complicated. It's really not. It's really not that complicated. That's what I like. A completely empty, except for one. There's nobody here, man. It's a ghost town. Is this a sign of Oh, it's a sign of the weekend, is what it is. Because most of the drivers trying to go home. It's a sign of a Saturday morning. That's what it is. And the truck stop's full, I'm sure, but I mean, there's nobody getting fuel. Does this thing still think I'm off duty? This is weird. Like, no, I've been driving this whole time. But it'll eventually figure out that I was driving. What's up, True Metal Jake? A name I'm seeing for the first time. Shout out in the chat. All right, bear with me just a moment. Actually, I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, I think we're back. Let me check. Yep. We're back. What up, Raz man? Going good, man. I rolled out about midnight and been driving 426. Just got some fuel, hitting the road again. What's up with you, man? All I got to do is drop this loaded trailer and hook up to an empty trailer and then take it to the truck stop. And then later today, they're going to tell me what load do I pick up tomorrow. So probably, I'm assuming they're going to send me back to Dallas, Fort Worth, but I don't know that for a fact. I need to go pick up my Amazon packages, which are in Dallas at a Whole Foods. I'm going to be paranoid real quick and check make sure I put the fuel caps back on. And I did. I guess we do have to take a 30-minute break at some point. And I guess because we've been in the middle of nowhere, my tablet still doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Still probably a little bit or a bit early for the break, but I guess I could take one. A few more hours to get out of this place. Am I going the wrong fucking way? No, there it is. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but the app for the logging, the hours of service can't figure out that I'm driving for some reason. But the ELD built into the truck, well, it'll all sync up later. So I don't even know how much drive time I have, but enough. It's kind of like a day off, but I'm I'm working. It's funny how that works. Assuming everything, you know, as Razvan knows, many things could go wrong. Not that I'm manifesting that, but it's always a possibility. But assuming everything goes according to plan, it'll be a fairly easy day. Am I going the right way here? Yeah. Maybe squeeze in a trip to Walmart, perhaps. See about that later. 2 hours and 25 minutes we've been live. Live. Oh, you're going to Paris? That's interesting. Y'all kind of got it made over there in Europe to some extent. I'm guessing a lot of cool shit to go and do over there. I expect. Did I run out of shit to say? I might have. I might have. Yeah, I might have ran out of shit to say. Actually, trying to hang out for a few minutes, especially since I kept some of y'all around during the fuel stop there. Sometimes once I move away from the talking and the discourse, I wonder what that guy did. There's a trucker pulled over by the police right outside the TA truck stop. That's somewhat unusual. What he could have done. Somewhat irregular. Business and pleasure trip. All right. For Mr. Raspberry. Cool, man. I did not realize it yesterday, but that little town I was in, there was a gas station next to the Walmart and had, a few little spots a truck could park. So I probably could have done my Walmart yesterday. We're kind of in between. I don't really need to shop for another couple of days, but there's always something. I do need to go ahead and get some glass cleaner. Went ahead and cleaned the mirrors and the side windows and half the windshield, driver's side of the windshield. I'm not a big comically long squeegee guy. I'd rather just climb up on the wheel and do it properly, right? Fell off one time, but fortunately, no injuries. But we'll wait it out. Maybe I can get back into talking mode. I had some apricots, jar of apricot. Excellent, delicious. as far as all this financial news, the headlines, now they're talking about, Trump maybe being able to get rid of the head of the Federal Reserve. If anybody remembers Trump's first term, that was the Fed raised rates. And then I think during the pandemic, they had to lower them. I'd have to go back and check. But, so I guess Trump's wanting low rates, which is all that means is money is so-called cheap. Although I'm not a economist, I'm a layperson who knows a thing or two. So keep that in mind. But this may be a different environment. The tariffs and all that, I don't know. At this point, I don't know what that's all about. Is that cover for something else going on? I don't mean a distraction. Just that can't. I don't think that can be everything it's cracked up to be. But I don't know. I don't really know what to think about all that. And yeah, there's inflation, but a lot of stuff is still pretty fucking cheap comparatively, especially consumer electronics. I've been looking at maybe getting another, at least while I'm truck driving, having phone service devoted to the job instead of using, my phone for the job. We will see, perhaps next month. U.S. Mobile, actually later next month, U.S. Mobile. It's taking $450 for a year of service. But, worth every penny. In my experience, I did. That's what I did last year. I did a whole year of service. $450 all in, $37.50 a month. 100 gig premium Verizon data, meaning it doesn't slow down. If my data slows down, the whole fucking network is slowed down. Because one thing that annoys me about Caleb Hammer, that financial audit guy, he used to try to call people out on their phone bills and say he had a sponsor. I don't even remember what it's called, but he touted this. It said, "Oh, they use all the same towers." It's like the towers has nothing to do with it. It's how prioritized or deprioritized is your data. Because the more they say unlimited, if they don't tell you how much data you get, then that means you probably have the lowest data possible. That's when the network gets congested, your shit slows down the first. Mine slows down last. And in my experience, doesn't slow down at all. But I guess for my loyalty, if I do another year, which I'm going to, they're going to bump me up to 110 gig a month. It's out of that 110, it's up to 50 hotspot. But I looked at some other carriers, and I didn't really like anything I saw on prepaid, and I'm not a fan of postpaid personally. If not for the deals on phones, I don't think anybody would do postpaid for personal. It doesn't really make sense. Unlimited data and speed. Yeah, Europe, as far as I understand, Europe is a lot different than the States, the way the cell stuff works. I don't know if it's better or worse or what. What up, Chris? Shout out to whoever I missed. Because I know U.S. Mobile's offering unlimited on AT&T, but they still slow it down at certain points. You're never, you know, I like having that 100 gig where I know I'm not going to go over it from experience, and it's all the, fastest. Although these early morning hours, probably don't have to worry about it. I know when I had Verizon prepaid, it was like $60 a month. It was relatively expensive, but it hardly ever slowed down, and I live streamed just like a lot, and never, had a problem. It mostly worked everywhere. T-Mobile claims I owe them money. I don't know how that could be exactly, but I had that T-Mobile 5G home internet. Now they're trying to tell me I owe them like $150. I don't know what that's all about.
Reduce speed. Please reduce speed. Reduce speed. Please reduce speed.
Getting nagged again by the AI.
Reduce speed.
Oh man, 15 gig roaming. Yeah, roaming's not really a thing over here anymore. I mean, I'm sure it is to some extent, but I know like the way I use phones, it's never comes into play. But I think I even have some international in my plan, but it's not like I'm going to go to Canada or Mexico. I think it just comes with it. And apparently, if I wanted a smartwatch, that's also included. It's like, yeah, I think I'm good. I don't think I need a smartwatch. Just, I'm sure it's useful in certain ways. I think I'm all right on all that. Yeah, it says I still got 5 hours to go, man. Sounds about right. to be able to see my clocks. I think I'm gonna restart the app and see if it figures itself out. If I can. Just gonna reboot the whole thing, I guess. Restart. See if that helps any. But yeah, it's been real interesting, you know, dealing with a lot of this spiritual practices type of stuff I've been talking about the last however long that's been since I leveled up. And a lot of it is observing, you know, when I do fall away from that, you know, that knowing or realization of my nature, which I suspect is the same as your nature, you know, the soul or whatever we're calling it, the highest level of vibrational energy, of frequency. Coming to understand, you know, and also then this morning, you know, when I woke up thinking, also having thoughts around how, you know, I can tell people all of this till I'm blue in the face, and it's, you know, the effect of that is necessarily very limited. It's still interesting to talk about, in my opinion. It helps me figure out, you know, even more things. Just talking about it, talking my way through a lot of this stuff. Anyway. But I reckon folks will have to, you know, get there for themselves, right? Or not. You don't have to. So on some level, the game, if that's the appropriate terminology, can't be told, can't be sold, right? It can be though, but then it's not the genuine article. That's, you know, the human propensity. Number one, to turn everything into a business, and then, you know, only measuring in money. So some folks, if they were willing to believe or accept that I'm actually capable of these things I'm claiming, you know, they would still want it to be, you know, validated by being able to earn money, right, from the thing itself, which, from my perspective, is not really the point. Then I listened to somebody like Dan Jungle Man Cates, one of the best poker players in the world for several years now. And, you know, he talks a lot on his YouTube channel about spiritual ideas. And he definitely seems to have an intellectual grasp in certain ways. But then watching and listening to him and his behavior and stuff, you know, he's not necessarily showing a lot of that, but maybe he is. I don't know the guy in real life. But if he keeps going with it, I'm sure he will go a long way with the spiritual side. You know, whatever led him to become such a great poker player, certainly he would be able to apply all of those same mechanisms to, you know, mastering certain spiritual concepts. I would assume anyway. There we go. Now our clocks work. Now the clock works. 3 hours and 40 minutes. We need to take a 30-minute break within the next 3:41. So yeah, I guess I probably should have taken one. I should have finished it at the fuel stop. That's all right. Not a big deal. But I could have waited another 15 and finished that off, but it slipped my mind until I was already driving again. Oh well. See what kind of spread we got between the 14. I got 851 on the 14 and 640 on the drive. So that's a little over 2 hours. So the 30-minute break will kill half an hour of that. So it'll still be an hour 40. So would still hypothetically have time to go to Walmart. Although the drop and hook at the receiver will take up some of that as well. Drop loaded, hook empty. And don't have to go to Walmart. It's an opportunity. Here's the way station. My GPS says it's closed. But probably is. It's going to ask me. Communicate that to other drivers that pay for the same app. Anyway. Yeah, it's closed. What? Overspeed, Razvan? StreamYard's blocking your comment because they have a little button now that says a button for a to post a referral link in the chat to try to sign people up for StreamYard. Yeah, I definitely could have gotten more sleep. I knew when I woke up it was way too early to be getting up, so I laid there for a while. But I definitely don't sleep as good if I don't make it to just one of the, a regular old big, just normal truck stop. So I woke up and started thinking about all the stuff. Was the truck going to do a regen? This loud ass truck, I know it's otherwise quiet out there. Am I the only one running their engine? Technically not supposed to idle in Pennsylvania, but like where I was at was Trump country, so they probably don't give a fuck. All of these things. Too lazy to do my breathing exercises. The breathing exercises help me go back to sleep sometimes. Not even too lazy, just did it. Yeah, I could have gotten another hour or two, but that's all right. It'll be all right. This is a time of day when between like 4 and 5 a.m., pretty much everybody gets drowsy, supposedly. Getting a little drowsy, nothing too crazy. I'll certainly pull over and take a nap if I have to, but nowhere near that, thankfully. Probably a little fatigue, too. Just overall fatigue.
speak.
More sleeping, Razvan? Oh, more than 5 hours at home? Yeah. I mean, I know people like having a house and a place to live, but for me, speaking only for me, just the concept of maintaining a house or an apartment while driving long haul, just to me, it doesn't make any sense. But I recognize I'm different in some ways than other folks. Well, in a lot of ways, it makes no sense to me. But then, I'm not going to word of mouth other people, based on me, right? So it's like, I've known people that realistically, it's like maybe, in a normal month, maybe they're spend 3 nights at their house. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to have a place, or it can be, depending anyway. But then again, I understand, folks used to having a place to keep their stuff. Number one, number two, uh, who knows? What if they choose to, you know, quit long haul? They might choose to get a local job, right, and come home every night. So that's an option. You know, uh, it does kind of suck at times living out of a truck, because I've had times in the past where it can become a problem to have everything, effectively all my stuff's in this truck. Um, and probably in the past I was a little too attached to just my specific things. At this point, if it became too inconvenient, I would just be like, well, fuck it, I've got enough money, I'll just buy different stuff. I'll just buy new stuff. But everything I have, it would not cost that much to replace it. I could always throw my clothes in a duffel bag or whatever. They sell duffel bags at the truck stop. But if something were to happen on the road, it's like, okay, what about my stuff? I've temporarily had to move out of the truck into like a hotel or whatever. Whereas the people who have a house and all that, they take what they need on the road with them, but it's not like, it's not their stuff necessarily. So like if I still had, my computers may or may not be put away for safekeeping. That's a whole other story, but I won't get into that. But if I had all my streamer equipment and my computer, if I had it with me, it would be here in the truck. Even if I wasn't using it on the road that much. Stuff like that. There's multiple ways to look at the same situation. Oh, you live with your brother? Rent free? Something about 1 month rent free? I guess if I put it on the screen, I'll be able to read it. I got to get another phone mount, though. If there's a flying jet when I need to go to the bathroom, I'll just go ahead and take a 30. Maybe I'll go in and get another phone mount. Yeah, I can't even. It's too small. StreamYard, man, trash, trash. It really is all. It's astonishing that they ask the insane amounts of money for this product. It makes a lot more sense on a computer. On the phone, it's just terrible. There's apparently an iPhone app, but I've never used it. There's a little Android icon, but it's just like the web. It's just like the web version. So I see no difference there. But I'm definitely finding it helpful in the short, since I've come to this new understanding or knowing about, you know, well, and it's hand in hand with the nature of the realm, which, you know, and this may not be a permanent thing, and I think this is where me calling the realm a heaven or hell realm, but presently manifesting as a hell realm. So acknowledging that it's at least, potentially possible that this realm could express, you know, as something more akin to whatever heaven would be or is. I guess, I've certainly experienced moments of that, I suppose. Is that just some version, inner peace? I don't really know. Or would that be heaven? But I do find it's quite useful to remind myself, when I forget myself and I temporarily identify with something other than my nature, specifically, or my essence or my soul being, one with the most super intelligent force of love at the highest level possible, or possible at the highest level. And, I found it helpful to, whatever it is that I've chosen to allow me to fall away from, you know, embodying that force in the moment. I say that's dead, whatever that is, and the feelings that go along with it, the anxiety or the fear or the stress or whatever it may be in the moment, whatever that sensation is, the negative emotion. I affirm that whatever it is I've temporarily identified with, whatever it is, I just immediately reframe it as that's dead. And why is it dead? Because everything in this place that is not one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level is dead and belongs to this realm of death and destruction. It will not survive this place. Or more correctly, it is not able to transcend this place. I think that's a bit of an epiphany. Whereas, love, from love's perspective, would only ever believe that love is not capable of doing anything other than transcending death, transcending destruction, transcending this realm. And what I mean by transcendence is that this realm, death, destruction, all of that would represent, from the human perspective, represents or could represent a limitation. And then so if I've come to know within myself and work with these concepts of my true nature, true knowledge of self, so-called self-realization, then, and it's that trust, but not a fake it till you make it, an actual trust that, and knowing and being secure with myself that that is my nature, and my nature is only capable of transcending the limitations of this realm. It's so anything that I express that is not and I want to choose my words carefully here, that is not proving itself capable of transcending the limitations of, in part, the fleshly human experience, and that's part of it. I would say that's part of the realm, effectively. and then the stresses and pressures, the day to day, concerns and worries of being a person, in this time frame with these whatever particular set of circumstances, right? And just and on and on and on, right? Now just describing the realm, or no, I shouldn't say just, but now describing the realm. And so just knowing, but without, you know, any sort of external convincing or stimulation that I'm aware of, just knowing that what I am ultimately is only able to be victorious over this place or through this place, actually, but that what this place is lacks the capacity to destroy what I am. And in fact, even before I was able to grasp, and grasp isn't the right term, but even before I was able to, achieve this level of self, and again, there's probably farther to go. I'm not claiming that this is the totality of all knowledge of self and self-realization, but maybe it is. I don't know yet. Could be. Uh, and again, I suspect this all would be the case for you folks. And as much as I might want to get very excited about all of this, and then attempt to, you know, get other people excited to where they would then do their own versions of whatever practices and has led me to this point. The reality is that would represent an external stimulus and an external motivation. And, the only way to prove the David Goggins motivation is crap, that I know to be the case, is, I have no choice based on my own code and my own knowledge to, and this, by the way, this is the nature of the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level. That force is only ever going to allow the other beings in the realm, the other humans, it's only ever going to treat them in such a way to, where they're gonna, you know, it can't look, that force can't try to get other people to follow suit, not through an overt or controlling means, only by, in this example, perhaps testifying as to what I know that I'm experiencing day by day, moment by moment. And then the listener is free to listen or not listen. The listener is free and do versions of both. Listen today, hear me say something and maybe be like, oh, fuck that, and not be here for a week, and then come back to it later. And then one day maybe think, well, maybe I will, try to do what Benton's doing. Or maybe maybe I am doing my version of what Benton's doing. But then life happens, as people say, right? And then so the person falls away from it and then comes back to it. There's all, it runs the gamut of possibilities. And so where I would intersect with other people's practice or their walk is, like a namaste acknowledgement of, I know what's in me, and I'm pretty sure it's in all of you, but I'll never know for sure, or it seems that I won't, at least not in this place, in this form. Although maybe not, maybe, or if it shows itself, and that maybe that is what the Bible refers to when it says, the church and when two or more are gathered in my name and all of this, talking about Christ. Again, we can call it Christ consciousness. I've experienced it, whatever we want to call it, and it's real. I know it to be real. Again, that's not evidence I can present to you, the listener. And that is the folly, in my view. That is one of a big folly of humanity, is to want to attempt to package whatever the direct experience or knowing is and then, attempt to disseminate that to people who are willing. But then, what is the motivation of a person who would be willing, beyond listening to my discourse? I mean, someone who would be willing to, join an organization, right? Or, even better for some folks, get in on the ground floor of some sort of burgeoning, ad hoc grassroots, get in where you fit in type of movement, right? Where there is power to be had. And that's a very human thing, the desire, the seeking of power, right? For power's sake. And then something I've talked about on here, humankind, and I should be clear, humankind, in any expression of humankind, short of a full expression of an individual whose nature is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level, anything short of that, number one, will only ever serve the realm itself, and arguably to the detriment of the individual as well, right? And furthermore, any collection of individuals engaged in creating and operating systems, unless all of those individuals are capable of expressing that nature in every ongoing moment, then that system absolutely, even if it doesn't start out corrupt, will experience a corruption very quickly. And in my experience and observation, where there are human systems, there is always corruption. And although I've just laid out how possibly, maybe it is possible, at least for short periods of time, for that not to be the case, in the long run, doesn't seem possible. And then I won't believe it till I see it. And then certainly no evidence of it here that I've seen in this place at this time or in the recent past. But that does also simultaneously does not preclude any number of religions, organizations, charities, cults from claiming to be to LARP as if the organization is conducting itself in ways that are free from corruption. So what I would say about humans individually is, we can do like Freedom Grower and others, particular people in the panel verse, right? And loop into problem solving, and attempt to prescribe, uh, intellectual, logical, coherent, valid prescriptions for solving certain social problems, especially, or political problems or governmental problems. And I would say that's an incorrect way to approach what is interpreted as a problem, by the way, what is causing the problem? I would say the problem is caused because in order to function as a human, it seems like for the entirety of my life, it is a series of copes on some level, meaning an attempt to cope with reality. And I will credit the truthers in one way, the so-called truth community. There are a lot of individuals that do seem to be putting forth a good faith effort. And I mean this, again, divorcing myself from if I consider the efforts to actually be successful or effective, that's different. But I'm just only addressing the good faith area of, a true intention to attempt to reckon with and face reality on reality's terms as it unfolds. That is a thing. Absolutely it is. I certainly have my own opinions and critiques and criticisms of the effectiveness or lack thereof, but that's neither here nor there for the purposes of, by the way, I have all those same critiques about myself. It's part of how I'm able to exhibit effectiveness, if I'm able to. And I do believe that I am. My opinion is that I'm able to, over time. And that ability is continuing to increase. And I find that very exciting and fulfilling and rewarding. And not a lot happens that I refer to as exciting. Yeah, novel or interesting, sure, but not exciting necessarily. Give me just a moment. I think I'm going to plug in the backup phone if I can find the charging devices, the charging cables. But more and more, I'm seeing the truth in, you know, something that I first came in contact with at the level of an idea, and then later on, something I suspected was an aphorism, which the aphorism part would acknowledge the truth of the thing. Um, and I can't find the charging cable. I can, but I haven't. I failed to do so. How about the light, sir? There we go. Still don't see it. Who knows where it could have gone off to? Aha, there it is. And is that love is a discipline of the mind. And I'm discovering, how I'm discovering that at the level of actually being able to explain it, which is, yes, it's mind, body, and spirit, certainly. Although arguably it's the discipline of the mind, it is enabling the other two parts to come into focus, but the mind, the body and the spirit. And then arguably if the mind and the body are where they need to be, the spirit, if the being is practicing, repentance and right action, I would argue that the spirit is you know, I can again only speak to my experience. I guess karma would be a factor if that's a thing. The spirit would follow right along, presumably, or lead the way, perhaps, or both. But yeah, that's what I'm finding is it's having developed all of these abilities via these practices over many, many, many years, and part of which is the observation of myself through meditation on a, you know, more often than not, in a given time frame, I'm in a meditative state more of those moments than I'm not, but certainly a significant portion of my day I'm not in a meditative state. But you know, I don't know, maybe 70% of the day. I don't know, 65%, something like that. Enough to where in the times that I fall away from discipline, and I've talked about also on here the continuous disciplining of my mind or one's mind, right? And that's sort of back to the David Goggins side of things. It's, if anybody's familiar with that fellow, and a lot of it is just, this maniacal ability to push himself far beyond the limits that he believed possible, right? Because the reality is, I think, and I can't speak for Goggins, but I think Goggins would tell you that he didn't. Much of what he's achieved, he probably did not believe it was possible. He certainly had little to no precedent for it in observing others. And, I've listened to his audio book. I don't follow the man in a way, but, I've learned a lot about myself in my own practices and my own walk. And there are some similarities. I'm not trying to brag at that level, but I've certainly put myself through some ringers. I put myself through the bullshit, something akin to some of the stuff he's done. Even just homelessness itself has been, quite arduous and extended. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily compare it to going through Hell Week, going through SEAL training like 3 different times or whatever. But, parts of it probably ain't too far off. But certainly not as arduous for, not quite that difficult for that long of a time. But certainly bits and pieces of it here and there over long periods of time. But either way, that's neither here nor there. Um, but so reaping those rewards, right? So, and I can't speak for Goggins, but I have to believe that somewhere deep inside of Goggins, when he first started out on a lot of this stuff, somehow he knew with 100% certainty that whatever rewards came to him as a result of all of these undertakings, like those would eventually become part of him so that now, you know, and again, from my perspective, it's levels up my ability to become effective. So, was I able to, did I have the ability years ago to, through these processes, the continuous disciplining of my mind, you know, uh, could I have achieved some of what I'm able to achieve now? Perhaps, but not with the small amount of effort, right? And that is probably like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. That's the mastery of the thing, right? To where, yes, it's still difficult at times, right? And on a daily basis, there are challenging moments. However, uh, I'm finding it quite easy to just, okay, I've fallen away from the manifestation of that force. Now, because of meditation, I'm aware that I've fallen away because the meditation in very quickly detects. So the action, the incorrect action, whatever it may be, and specifically the incorrect action is to knowingly or unknowingly to overtly choose, because sometimes I just choose to do some shit I know ain't right, and then it just human nature sort of sneaks up on me, because it is quite, parts of my own human nature are deceptive for whatever reason. And but then, so even as I'm seeing what I'm doing in the moment, then I'm also almost always observing my space internally enough to go, aha, there's the tension in a particular part of my body. There's a little bit of physical sensation. Oh, my breathing is changing a little bit. Probably my blood pressure is increasing a little bit. Like all of the physiological markers, because of the meditation practice, now it's an immediate reminder. And now intellectually, so this is the mind, body, and spirit, by the way, this is the alignment. So then the intellect is, oh, that's right. The only thing that causes this is incorrectly identifying within myself at the level of my own creative force, meaning what is being served by my creation in this moment and in the 10 prior moments that has caused these physiological and emotional responses I'm now experiencing. And furthermore, it's easy in this moment, even though I'm experiencing this discomfort of these negative states, it's like the practices do themselves. It's like the Bruce Lee concept of, when the practitioner is in that flow, the fist punch, the punch throws itself, right? And Bruce Lee had a more elegant way of putting that, but like, because of all these practices, whatever that version of the punch is, it's always right on time. And it just, and now have total trust in the moment of, okay, now my practices kick in, the breathing conducts itself properly, the thoughts that are generated from the stressful physiology, the practice of not attaching to the content of the thoughts, that's automated. I'm observing it, right? So all of this just fires off, and it's almost like child's play. But, the savant side of it is, I necessarily chose to go through all of this long process of just putting my own nose to the grindstone, David Goggins style, because something in me knew from day one, if as long as I keep going and don't stop, even as I know for periods of time I will completely abandon, as long as I always go back to those practices, as long as while I'm practicing, I'm always doing the best I can in a given day, in a given moment, in a given hour, right? Even if I know for that period of time I'm not making a lot of progress, that's okay because I know at a level of I know and trust at a level of philosophy, correct philosophy being the absence of incorrect philosophy. I know at a level of philosophy that there's a thing called using time as an ally, and that means I don't need to make much progress today. What a blessing, assuming I'm still going to be here for some number of years. So in the past, I could easily, before my illness, I could say, well, other than misfortune or an accident, it's reasonably certain I'm going to be here for 20 more years. So if 3/4 of every day of each one of these years I practice, I really don't need to make very much progress in any one of those days because all of that tiny amount of nearly imperceptible progress, each one of those 75% of the 365 days of the year, stacked 10 of those years, that cannot do anything but lead to a great deal of progress. However, there's no way to fake that progress. This is where the David Goggins side of it comes in. That's why this appeals to people like me and people like David Goggins, because you can't fake this. So David Goggins very early on probably realized and accepted, as I did, I can't do anything about the fact that I've worked many jobs in the past where I was in an environment where politically many folks intentionally avoided work and were so sophisticated and skilled at it that management legitimately had no idea that they did that. Number one, they do no work. Number two, someone like Benton and others pick up the slack. And number three, these same people are all the same people who get away with it. But what are they getting away with? What they're getting away with is going to all the trouble of incarnating into a heaven or hell realm in a flesh suit, right? In a rebellious, degenerated state in some way, in a place that's going to teach them, a series of monkey dances that's going to lead them to some version of the Pleasure Island or whatever it was called in Pinocchio, right? And from my perspective, and probably David Goggins' perspective, although I'm not able to speak for him, what a shame. But I don't have power. I have neither power nor I also don't share any of whatever. I don't share in their victory or their defeat spiritually at the level of shame or victory. So, and at the level of free will and live and let live, that's fine for other people to live that way. For me, it was never going to be fine to go to all the trouble of my essence was somewhere else, and now it's for whatever reason came to this place for this time, for these seasons, and it, according to everything I know, and am able to grasp, it will leave here. Why would I go to all that trouble and go through all of this pain and agony in some ways and stress and not take full advantage? To me, that's crazy. Meanwhile, and now we're back to effectiveness, skin in the game, right? That's most of humanity. Comes to this place, makes little to no progress, leaves, and perhaps returns to make little to no progress. If reincarnation is a thing, if versions of the soul trap are partially or fully in effect, if I have repeated that process and maybe finally, am some version of a so-called old soul, and I'm not saying that I am, but or maybe I'm a savant enough that maybe I did master enough of this in this lifetime, and if I am, I'm certainly an idiot savant. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe for whatever reason, I came to grasp concepts that I find quite obvious and quote, if common sense, air quotes was a thing, to me it's common sense. Everything I just said is fucking common sense from my perspective. I honor and respect the part of life where it's not obvious to other people. Most Americans, especially, will fight me tooth and nail at the level of oppositional defiance if I even try to tell people any of this. Not only will they not thank me for the, oh, thanks for the heads up, good looking out, partner. I'm actually going to be, you know, messenger killed. I'm going to be, you know, ridiculed to some extent, dismissed out of hand, and you know, people are going to seek to negate the validity of my assertions. Right? Like that's not my thanks. So that proves to me everything I just said proves to me that that's not my reward. It's never going to be my reward. To seek to be rewarded at the level of money or acclaim or whatever Jack Talcott is attempting to get out of this experience, that would represent failure in my life from my perspective based on my walk or walk. And by the way, I already claim victory. I claim victory at the level of transcendence of this realm many years ago solely based on transcending the limitations I was born into culturally, the family I was born into, which does have, and all of these have benefits. These are all blessings, meaning they're also all curses. It's a matter of context and perspective, right? So it is all blessing. Everything in this life is blessing. But guess what? Everything in this life is curses, meaning it all has its element of upside combined with downside. There's no way to take the phenomena of this realm, anything identified with this realm, that meaning the stuff that correctly belongs to this realm, meaning it will never leave this realm. It belongs to this realm and this realm alone, or perhaps lower realms. Maybe there are things of this realm can descend to lower realms. I don't know. Don't really care. Not my concern. Right. Et tu, Dante? Right. I guess et tu wouldn't be the right. That's not the right. That's not the right terminology. But I tried to be cute. It did not work. And you know, what's important, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. What's important for the listener is not that Benton is special, although I am. It's not, oh, look, you know, Benton's bragging on himself again. Yeah, well, perhaps. Again, where I'm from, it's, you know, this ain't bragging if I can back it up. But what I find instructional and appropriate is to recognize the fact that I just demonstrated an ability to verbalize that level of breakdown of the combining of all of those various concepts in the moment. That must necessarily represent a far greater understanding of all of these concepts within myself. There's no way I just said all of that in the way that I just said it, unless what I know and what I comprehend and, dare I say, stand under within myself has to be exponentially beyond what I just demonstrated. Meaning, in a way, I am proving exactly what in the fuck Benton's got going on and what Benton's all about. And what I got you got to get it, put it in you. You can't, because meaning you can't get it from me and put it in you. And I would say, if what's in me is in you, you're looking in the wrong place anyway. If you're looking to me, meaning I have felt in the past, in earlier stages of my development, that I was exhibiting certain behaviors especially in the physical space, when I did used to give a lot of public. It sounds ridiculous, but I've done a lot of public preaching and I've done a lot of just giving speeches in public. I've done a lot of it. And in fact, I was trained by the Jehovah's Witnesses to be able to do that. So it is my skill set. In fact, it's one of the earliest things I was ever taught, right? Was how to do exactly that effectively. And I'm quite good at it. Uh, Even better than the others that were attempted to, that not everybody takes to that level of learning. And people say, supposedly, according to surveys, the most stressful thing, second only to death of a loved one, is public speaking, right? Whereas, yeah, I get a little nervous about it, but I will just choose to do it. By the way, most folks, it takes a whole fucking lot. They more or less has to be just no other alternative. That's about the only way you can get somebody to get up somewhere and give a speech before a crowd of people, right? How many of you listening have given speeches in your life, and how many times, right? I've given a bunch of them in IRL. Before I ever became homeless, I gave a lot of speeches. I gave a lot in school, and it was still part of, again, born into a time where they had us giving fucking speeches. Whether we wanted to or not. I guess you're going to have to fake an illness, partner. Otherwise, you're going to have to at least talk to speak before the class for 5 minutes. Even the shy kids, right? Even the shy kids, they're just going to stand up there and read off of their piece of notebook paper and never look up. Yeah, that's fine, but they're still technically going to do the damn thing, right? And then Benton's going to go up there at some point and make a fool out of himself because he's just going to go up there and wing it, as I did one time in either junior high or high school. I just said, fuck it. I'm going to YOLO it and just go up there and come off the dome. And I found that my ability to speak extemporaneously off the dome for even 5 minutes was not quite what I thought it would be. So that there was certainly humility to be found in that, right? And I learned and grew from it. It's quite embarrassing. But, probably needed to fall on my face. When does Jack Talcott fall on his face? If anybody knows who that is, then that's mea culpa. By the way, my life in certain ways has been a series. It's been just Benton goes from mea culpa to mea culpa in a way, right? In a way, like, but that's the thing about reality. Nobody can make me accept the validity of a mea culpa. I'm free to create a false reality in which, well, in fact, that's not a mea culpa, right? I don't have to let the realm administer the motherfucking mea. In fact, mea culpa must be consented to. Now, who's bet? It's great. That's one of the best things possible. And I mean dictionary definition of mea culpa. Look it up because I'm not even entirely sure. I know what I mean, but I'm not even entirely sure what the fucking definition is. Although if I read it right now, I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. But I can't. If you ask me, I don't really know. I don't even really know what I mean. But I do know what I mean. Funny how it can be both things simultaneously, right? Maybe I will look it up real quick. MEA space CULPA. Mea culpa. Where's my dictionary? There it is. Uh-oh, are we taking the exit? Hang on. Nope, not yet. Mea culpa. Mea culpa. Oh, it did it, but it misunderstood my silly accent. Mea culpa. Yeah, what's funny is my phone used to understand my accent when I first got it, and now it's like I need to go delete all the settings, I guess, because it's taught itself to no longer be able to understand my accent, which is bizarre. It's quite strange. I guess I got to type it in. I feel like this is oppositional defiance. Maybe the AI is learning how to be oppositionally defiant. Mea culpa, my fault. Due to my error, I am to blame. Noun, an instance of mea culpa, an apology. So it's it's a moment in which I have an opportunity to acknowledge that I done fucked up, to apologize for something, especially excessively. So it's an opportunity to recognize publicly one's error in a realm in which seemingly all beings are endowed with creative force and at the level of free will are free to use the creative force to create a false reality in which, well, actually, I didn't fuck up at all. In fact, everything but me is to blame for whatever this is. Right. And I would present mea culpa as a one of a million different instances of me claiming victory over the limitations of my birth via transcending the fact that more often than not humans will avoid mea culpa by creating a false reality for themselves and inhabiting it, oftentimes via repression, and repression is always harmful to the individual or an individual. See? How about that? So I would say ultimately what separates me and maybe somebody like Goggins from most of the rest of everybody else is to somehow intuitively being able to grasp and trust and then affirm and know that all efforts towards achieving any of what I'm speaking on will bear fruit, because one of the major mechanisms that will keep people from who otherwise might want to do some of what I'm describing would be to say, okay, but what if I put in all that work and I don't get anything in return? Which is, by the way, that's childish. That's how a child approaches things. The child wants some version of a guarantee. Whereas it's like, well, wait a minute. If I have learned how to tap into my intuition, and if I know experientially that intuition is knowledge gained outside of knowledge and reason, I'm sorry, logic and reason, and I know from experience that my intuition is 100% accurate over time, and I am almost certain that my intuition is telling me that my efforts, again, what do they say about God? God, something about God something about can't, the faith or whatever can't return void. I can't remember exactly what it is. So if my essence, let's bring it back to God. Let's bring it back to God is love. Let's bring it back to love is, and again, these are assertions. If God is love, if love can be defined as the most super intelligent force at the highest level of vibrational frequency possible, right? And if the Bible is correct, again, if that is within me, the kingdom of God is within you, is within me, right? If all of that is the case, and then if that's a force that cannot return void, right? If that's what that is, and again, we're having epiphanies here. I'm having these thoughts for the very first time. Then that means there's no chance that my efforts will go unrecognized or unrewarded. It literally can't. It's impossible. Now, back to me knowing that my purpose is to be of service, right? So, in service of that force, right, via my creative force, my spiritual surrender and submission to that force, by the way, by what? By manifesting in the moment that force itself, by the way, which is in some way, isn't that a perpetual motion machine or a perpetual energy machine? Isn't that a complete system, by the way, whereby that energy is never created or destroyed? Seems to me like that would be the case. Am I now exhibiting some form of a genius level uh, apprehension of physics and metaphysics? Perhaps. Do we pull in to the blue beacon? I don't know. I think maybe we do. Uh-oh, is it going to happen? Is it going down? I think we may be finally washing the truck. Is this the correct exit? I hope so. Hang on, let me find the blue beacon on the GPS since I'm tarded. Where is the blue beacon? I don't even see it on here. That's Truck World. Where the hell's the blue beacon? There it is. Create route. Yeah, buddy. Take our 30 in line for the truck wash. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Oh, it's one of them gigantic, fancy independent truck stops. Forgot. This is, I think, the Iowa 80, but it's not in Iowa. I think that's what this is. I think. So they got all the trucker amenities here. Truck World. Maybe it's not the I-80, Iowa I-80 or whatever it's called. I am on I-80 though. Truck World, that's what it's called. Independent. Yeah, the I-80 of Iowa is a TA. The one in Iowa is a TA, but I've seen another one somewhere unless I'm hallucinating, which is also possible. Of course, in some way, this life, this waking life, is a hallucination or series of hallucinations. But no reason to get into that just yet. And in a moment, I'm going to have to remember what to tell the guy. Since my the guy that did my orientation used to be a truck driver, he told me exactly what to order at the Blue Beacon because I've never worked for a company that let us have anything beyond just the basic bare bones wash. At least at the Blue Beacon. Was I supposed to go straight? That don't make no damn sense. I was supposed to go straight. Motherfucker. Now we done fucked up. Do we risk a U-turn? I think we do. And, we'll hope these people behind us don't kill us. Don't get angry with us. Sorry, folks. My apologies. I don't know how to read my GPS. Continuing to exhibit mastery of the U-turn. Yeah, it's going to work every time right up until it doesn't, right? I misread the GPS. Thank you for your patience. I do notice post-pandemic, folks do seem, while people have degenerated in some ways, people do seem just a little more forgiving of their fellow bozos. Have y'all noticed that? I notice when I do some certain actions seem to be less likely to, and I'm certain it's self-serving, but it seems less likely to exhibit some sort of anger or irritation, such as, you know, that person driving out of the McDonald's making the right turn, and then, oh, but I got to wait to make my right turn because there's a truck driver, some lost truckers making a U-turn, right? Hang on, let me get off the drive line. Hang on, let's get off the drive line there, Bo. Get off the drive line, Bo. Yard move. Truck stop. Truck stop. All right. Bam, we're off the drive line. Might need my drive time or something else. Might still have time for Walmart later on. Who knows? Who could say? Here's the blue beacon. Okay, entrance, good. First truck wash. Me driving this truck. So I think, what did they say? Classic wash, use the brushes, which I still, other than the obvious, I really don't understand what that means. And then the Rain-X treatment. And don't wash the trailer. I guess, I don't fucking know. Unless the classic wash includes the trailer wash. I have no idea. Apparently I can do this twice a month. They used to just let the driver apparently order whatever the driver wanted to order, but then they said, of course, as everything else happens, some folks abused it, right? Which is also why they won't let me use the personal conveyance option most of the time. And when I'm on my 34-hour restart, I have to contact the company and they turn it on manually and then disconnect. They turn it off again later. It's always blamed on, and I'm sure people have abused it. Like, I'm certain of that. But anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and pull up to the other lane. Make sure we can actually get into the place. I hope I made a wide enough of a turn. I think I did. These guys would know. They'd have to back out, but I think we got it. All right, off duty. These overnight guys, they get paid the same, I'm assuming, unless there's some sort of bonus or a production incentive. I'm assuming these guys working at the truck wash probably get paid the same whether trucks roll in it. Of course, it's 6 o'clock, so in my mind, it's still like 3 in the morning. But yeah, it's about to be it's about to be the morning rush, I would imagine. What's up? Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I think Gen Z over here that just stuck his head out, I think he was having some version of those same thoughts of, yeah, it looks like the morning rush is here. Whereas it's a crime of opportunity from my perspective. Like, yeah, no, I seen from the highway that wasn't nobody in line hardly. There's people in line, but nothing crazy. Although, actually, they're probably looking at how dirty the truck is, now that I think about it. Because in typical truck wash fashion, the other guy in line, his shit don't even, to me, doesn't look like it even needs to be washed. But, he owns his own truck. It's got a lot of chrome on it. Not my style. I guess I could show you, but it's not my style. But, I guess he likes it. Whereas I know all I'm going to do is go get the thing dirty again. So, trying to think of, I don't think it's too dirty where I'm delivering. Yeah, my drop is not too bad, but where I picked this load up yesterday, dropped empty and hooked up the loaded, it was mud holes to be found on that property, certainly. I found one this time, but it wasn't much of a mud hole. Where they had me drop the time before was a fucking mud hole. And the company wants me to take pictures of the trailer every time I drop a trailer. And if they asked me about that one, I was just going to say, well, hey, where are our pictures? Yeah, I'd have been happy to take pictures, except they had me drop it in a fucking mud hole. So, I just was not going to put on my boots to go traipsing through a mud hole to take pictures of a trailer that I just picked up 50 miles ago. So, I don't know what to tell you. Or I do know what to tell you, and I just told you. Chrome wheels, dirty. Brassman, something about chrome wheels and dirty. Yeah, Southern accent option. Well, most of my phones I found, if I speak like really correctly, if I enunciate, they can understand most of it. But when I first got this Pixel, it was way better than any other phone I've ever had at being able to know what the fuck I'm saying. So maybe I've just gotten lazy in how maybe I'm just not over enunciating anymore. But I'm pretty sure if I just go into the app and delete the cache or whatever data it's stored, I bet you it'll go right back to being able to understand me. Mea culpa. It should just say, could you use that in a sentence, please? Oh, okay. Now we know what you were trying to say. Jack Talcott lived without fear in the now and present landed him in a lot of struggle. Maybe he will make it live streaming. I think he is making it live streaming. I don't watch his channel, and I've rarely have I ever popped in to see what was going on. And believe me, I would tell you if I listened to him every day, I would tell you, or you'd already know. But I certainly caught quite a bit of him, on Paul when I was watching, most of Paul and Slave's live stream. And I've seen Talcott on other panels. It's just I rarely have I gone to his channel. Um, so I don't really know, but it seems to me, based on what I've heard, he is, making it as a live streamer. I mean, some of that would be, you know, is this a homeless person, right? If he's actually, I've heard he actually got kicked out of his house finally, which I don't. Again, this is just what I've heard. I don't fucking know. And then, um, how cheaply can he live, right? What's his nut? What's his nut? You know, Probably not much. I mean, I don't. Again, none of my business, but just speculating, right? Speculating. But I'll probably get out of here. I think I've rambled enough. 300 live viewers to make a living. Well, and see, but I'm not sure that's the case, Razvan, because I know of at least one person, and actually, I know of multiple people who are just straight up e-beggars. Like, have you ever heard of Dark Side Phil? Like, he doesn't get that many live viewers. He gets more than Talcott, though. So yeah, you're not. You're probably right, Razvan. You're probably right. But then the thing about that is, Dark Side Phil like lives in the house, pays rent or a mortgage, pays expenses, right? Apparently wastes a lot of money on some sort of mobile game that he spends thousands of dollars a month on. So he's choosing to live a fairly highfalutin lifestyle comparatively, right? Versus other folks like if you've ever heard of this Ralph, Ethan Ralph fella. Davy Crocco actually was friends with, apparently. Ethan Ralph, who lives in Mexico and his rent is 200 a month. And hang on, I got to fuck the dude. All right, I'm back. I basically told the dude just do whatever you're gonna do, and I'm not gonna pitch a fit. So, which actually they'll probably do just as good a job as they would with the guy who just stood there and watched them like a hawk the entire time. But once again, if he owns the truck, like I get it, right? But you know, and if it's my money, yeah, I'm gonna want it done the way I want it done. But at the same time, like, do we really need to just stand there and watch every move they make, or probably I can, probably I know my own truck well enough where I can just kind of eyeball it before I pull it out and just be like, yeah, man. Or hey, if you don't mind, could you just hit that one? Maybe y'all missed a spot over there, right? Perhaps. And I'm a fucking asshole, so it's like, yeah, when it's time to go fucking asshole mode, I'll go asshole mode. But until then, how about I just be cool? And Gen Z here, they're just chilling anyway. So I already know generation gap is I can be as agitated and irritated and back in my day as I want. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna do whatever the fuck they're gonna do. So probably I'm communicating in a way that will make it more likely that they'll do a good job. Because I'm basically like, hey man, like this is what the company told me to order, and I don't fucking know what it's supposed to look like. And that's the truth, by the way. I have no idea what a classic watch with the brushes and the Rain-X. I don't fucking know. I don't know what that means. I know what brushes are, right? Whatever the fuck all that is, go for it, y'all. By the way, y'all are working. Y'all are all day long watching trucks, so I'm just gonna assume you know way more about it than I do. I've never worked at the Blue Beacon. You know, I mean, shouldn't that be pretty much everybody's attitude? Right? I would think so. I don't know if I turned this thing wide enough or not. I think I did. Yeah, we got it. Cut it a little close, but yeah. It's like I'm never going to be in charge of the truck wash. At no point am I is the customer, you know, always right. Other than I can have them redo parts of it. All right. Whew. Oh, you want me to get out? All right. Yeah, no problem. All right. I'm done. See you on a bit.